marrying that janitor? You're dead to us, my parents spat, cutting me off completely. 15 years later, they showed up begging for help with their bankruptcy. Surprise, that janitor had built a $50 million tech company, and I was the CEO. The security guard at our corporate headquarters looked uncomfortable as he spoke into his earpiece. Ma'am, there's an older couple here claiming to be your parents. They don't have an appointment, but they're quite insistent. I stared at the security monitor, watching my mother clutch her knockoff designer purse while my father paced in his ill-fitting suit. 15 years of silence, and they'd finally found their way to my door, not to apologize, not to reconcile, but to beg. Send them to conference room C, I instructed. Have legal sit in. This should be interesting. My name is Arya Patel Morrison, and yes, the hyphenated name was intentional. I kept Patel to honor where I came from, added Morrison to honor where I was going. My parents had such high hopes when they named me Arya, a beautiful melody, they'd said. Too bad they didn't appreciate the song I chose to sing. The Patels were what you'd call comfortable, not ultra-wealthy, but successful enough to live in a gated community, drive luxury cars, and look down on anyone who didn't summer in the Hamptons. My father was a mid-level executive at a pharmaceutical company. My mother a real estate agent who specialized in upscale properties only. Darling, they had my life planned from birth, private schools, Ivy League education, marriage to a nice Indian boy from an equally successful family, preferably a doctor or lawyer. I followed the script perfectly until I met Marcus Morrison my junior year at Yale. Marcus was working nights as a janitor to pay for his grandmother's cancer treatment. I met him when I stayed late in the library studying for my economics final. He was emptying trash bins, humming softly, when he noticed my textbook. Behavioral economics? He'd asked. Are you reading Kahneman's new paper on decision-making under uncertainty? I'd looked up, surprised. You know Kahneman? He'd smiled, that brilliant smile that would later charm investors out of millions. I audit classes when I can. Professor Chen doesn't mind if I sit in the back during my break. We talked for 3 hours that night. Marcus had a mind like a steel trap, absorbing everything he read, connecting ideas across disciplines. He was brilliant, driven, and kind, everything my parents claimed to value. Except for one thing, he was poor, and worse, in their eyes, he was black. You're throwing your life away, my mother wailed when I told them we were dating. What will people say? What about your children? He's a janitor, Arya. My father said, as if the word itself was dirty. You're meant for better things. We didn't sacrifice everything for you to marry down. Marry down? I'd repeated, incredulous. Marcus is brilliant. He's teaching himself coding. He has incredible ideas. Ideas don't pay bills, my father interrupted. Pushing a mop does. Barely. When I announced our engagement senior year, they issued an ultimatum, him or them. I chose him. They cut me off completely, financially, emotionally. Even had me removed from family photos. My younger brother Dev was forbidden from contacting me. Extended family was told I'd lost my way and needed to learn hard lessons. The first years were brutal. I worked 2 jobs while Marcus worked 3. We lived in a studio apartment with spotty heating and a bathroom down the hall. I'd gone from designer clothes to thrift store finds, from spring break in Cancun to staycations on our fire escape. But while my parents thought they were teaching me a lesson about choosing love over money, Marcus was quietly building our future. He'd spend days cleaning offices and nights coding, teaching himself everything from basic HTML to complex algorithms. His first app was simple, a scheduling tool for service workers. It barely made money, but it caught the attention of a small investor. You've got something, the investor had said. The way you think about efficiency, about optimization, keep building. So he did, and I helped. My economics degree might not have gotten me the corporate job my parents envisioned, but it helped me understand market need, scalability, profit margins. We were partners in everything, love, life, and eventually, business. The breakthrough came 5 years in. Marcus developed an AI-driven logistics platform that could optimize delivery routes in real time. What started as a tool to help his former coworkers, janitors, delivery drivers, service workers, became a revolutionary system that major corporations desperately wanted. We're not selling, Marcus said when the first offer came in. We're building something bigger. He was right. That platform became the foundation of Morrison Technologies. Within 3 years, we'd expanded into smart city solutions, workplace optimization, and predictive analytics. Marcus was the visionary. I was the strategist. Together, we built an empire. The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents had disowned me for marrying a janitor, not realizing that janitors see everything, every inefficiency, every wasted resource, every opportunity for improvement. Marcus understood buildings from the ground up, understood systems from the inside out. His lowly job had given him insights that no MBA program could teach. By our 10th anniversary, Morrison Technologies was valued at $50 million. We'd moved from that studio apartment to a penthouse, though we kept the fire escape chairs, a reminder of where we'd started. Marcus insisted on hiring practices that prioritized potential over pedigree. Some of our best developers were former food service workers, retail employees, custodians, people like him, who'd been overlooked because of their circumstances rather than their capabilities. I'd kept tabs on my family through social media and mutual acquaintances. Dev had become a doctor, just as planned. He'd married a nice Indian girl from a good family. They lived in the suburbs, had 2 kids, seemed happy enough. My parents had aged, still keeping up appearances but struggling. The pharmaceutical company had downsized, pushing my father into early retirement. The real estate market had crashed, taking my mother's commissions with it. They'd refinanced their house multiple times, borrowed against retirement funds, maxed out credit cards, maintaining a lifestyle they could no longer afford. The same need to keep up appearances that had made them disown me was now destroying them financially. Which brings us to today, in conference room C, with my parents sitting across from me for the first time in 15 years. Arya, my mother started, then caught herself. I mean, Ms. Patel Morrison, thank you for seeing us. She'd aged poorly, stress etched into every line of her face. My father looked smaller than I remembered, his arrogance deflated by desperation. You have 10 minutes, I said, checking my watch. I have a board meeting at 3. Board meeting? My father repeated. You're on the board? I'm the CEO, I clarified, co-founder, majority shareholder. But you didn't come here for my resume. They exchanged glances. Finally, my mother spoke. We're in trouble, Beta, financial trouble. The house is in foreclosure. We have debts. How much? I asked, cutting through the preamble. 400,000, my father whispered. Maybe more with penalties. I did the math quickly. 400,000 to save the house they'd prioritized over their daughter. Less than I'd spend on a single developer hire. And you want me to help because you're our daughter, my mother said desperately. Family helps family. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Was I family when you disowned me? When you told everyone I was dead to you? When you refused to meet your grandchildren because their father pushes a mop? That was, we were trying to protect you, my father attempted. You have to understand, we wanted better for you. Better than Marcus? I interrupted. The man who built this company from nothing? Who employs over 500 people? Who's donated millions to education programs for underprivileged kids? That's not better enough for you? We didn't know, my mother whispered. You didn't want to know. You saw a janitor and decided that was all he'd ever be. You saw a title instead of a person. You chose your prejudice over your daughter. The conference room phone buzzed. Mrs. Morrison? Mr. Morrison is here for the partnership review. Send him in, I said. Marcus entered, still as handsome as the night I met him in the library. He wore a custom suit now instead of a janitor's uniform, but his smile was the same. He paused, recognizing my parents despite the years. Mr. and Mrs. Patel, he said evenly. I heard you were here. My mother couldn't meet his eyes. My father cleared his throat awkwardly. Marcus, I said, my parents are in financial trouble. They're asking for help. He studied them for a long moment. The same parents who said I'd never amount to anything, who called me worthless, who threatened to have me arrested for stalking their daughter when I tried to invite them to our wedding. My parents shrank in their chairs. That was a mistake, my father managed. A mistake, Marcus repeated. 15 years of silence, missing your grandchildren's births, first steps, first words. That's quite a long mistake. You have grandchildren. By the way, I added, Amara is 12, loves robotics, calls herself a future engineer. Dylan is 10, wants to be a chef. They're brilliant, kind, curious kids. But you wouldn't know that. My mother was crying now, genuine tears rather than the theatrical ones I remembered. We're sorry, we're so sorry. Sorry you were wrong. Or sorry you're broke? I asked. Silence. Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down. Here's what I find interesting. You cut Arya off to teach her a lesson about choosing love over money, but when you had to choose between your pride and your daughter, you chose pride. Now you're here because you need money. So really, what did anyone learn? Please, my father said. Pride completely abandoned. We'll lose everything. Like you were willing to let me lose everything? I asked. I had to choose between the man I loved and the family I was born into. You made that an easy choice. I stood up. Marcus beside me. Here's what we're willing to do. Morrison Technologies has a program for people facing foreclosure. You can apply like anyone else. If approved, we'll buy your mortgage and restructure it to something manageable, but it comes with conditions. Anything, my mother said quickly. You'll volunteer 20 hours a week at our community center, teaching financial literacy to immigrant families. You'll attend diversity and inclusion workshops. You'll write a public apology acknowledging your prejudice and its consequences. And you'll meet with a family therapist if you want any relationship with your grandchildren. That's humiliating, my father protested weakly. No, Marcus said firmly. Humiliating is being told you're worthless because of your job. Humiliating is having your wife's family act like you're invisible at your own wedding. Humiliating is explaining to your children why they've never met their grandparents. This is accountability, they agreed. Of course, desperation has a way of improving perspective. 6 months later, I watched my mother teaching a budgeting class to recent immigrants, many of whom worked as janitors, housekeepers, food service workers. She was patient, respectful, speaking to them as equals. My father was across the hall, mentoring young entrepreneurs from underserved communities. They're really trying, Marcus observed, joining me at the observation window. Maybe, I agreed, or maybe they just don't want to lose their house. Does it matter? They're helping people. That's more than they ever did before. The grandchildren meeting was harder. Amara, sharp as a tack, asked point blank why her grandparents had been mean to Daddy. Dylan wanted to know if they were still racist or just were racist before. We were wrong, my mother told them, tears genuine this time. We judged your daddy unfairly. We missed so much because we were stupid. 15 years of stupid is a lot of stupid, Amara observed. Yes, my father agreed. It is. It's been a year now. The relationship isn't what it could have been. 15 years of absence leave scars. But my parents are learning, growing, contributing to their community in ways they never did when they had money. They've met other interracial couples at the center, heard stories of sacrifice and success that challenge everything they once believed. I wish we'd been braver, my mother said last week, watching Marcus teach coding to kids at the center. We lost so much time. You lost more than time, I reminded her. You lost the chance to know us when we were struggling, when we were building, when we were becoming. You only wanted us after we'd succeeded. No, she said quietly, we want you because we finally understand we failed. The success just made it impossible to keep pretending otherwise. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's just regret. Either way, Morrison Technologies continues to thrive. We're valued at $75 million now, expanding internationally. Marcus was featured on the cover of Tech Innovator magazine, From Janitor to Giant, the Marcus Morrison story. He framed it, hung it in his office next to his old janitor's ID badge. Never forget where you came from, he tells every new hire. And never let anyone tell you where you can't go. My parents kept the article too. I saw it on their refrigerator, highlighted and worn from handling. Next to it, a photo from Amara's robotics competition, the whole family together. Finally, they've disowned me for marrying poor, not understanding that poverty is about more than money. Marcus was never poor in spirit, in ambition, in love. He was only poor in the ways that shouldn't matter, and don't. If you're measuring a person's worth correctly, the fortune they came begging for? It was built on everything they'd rejected, love over convention, merit over privilege, character over credentials. That janitor they'd dismissed had more vision in his mop bucket than they'd had in their whole gated community. Now they know, better late than never, though never would have been better than late. But that's the thing about bridges burned, sometimes you can build new ones. They'll never be as strong as the original might have been, but if you're careful, if you're honest about why the first one failed, maybe they'll hold enough weight for what matters, the chance to do better. My name is still Arya Patel Morrison. The melody I chose to sing might not have been the one my parents composed for me, but it's mine, and it sounds exactly like success.
The moment your child collapses on stage is forever burned into your memory, like a photograph negative that won't fade no matter how many times you blink. I was sitting in the third row, dead center, watching my 12-year-old daughter, Quinn, perform Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major when her fingers suddenly froze over the keys. My name is Karen, and I've spent the last 15 years of my life making sure nothing bad ever happened to my little girl. But in that moment, as Quinn's face went pale and her body crumpled beside the grand piano, I realized I had failed. "Quinn!" I screamed, already halfway down the aisle before her head hit the stage floor. Other parents were rising from their seats, murmuring in confusion, but I barely registered them. My heels clattered against the wooden steps as I rushed onto the stage, Give her space, someone called out, but I pushed past the gathering crowd. Quinn's chest was rising and falling rapidly, her skin clammy to the touch. I knew exactly what this was. She'd missed her medication. But that was impossible. I'd watched her take it myself before the recital. "Mum?" Quinn's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't feel good." "It's okay, baby. I'm here." I reached for her purse, fumbling for the pill case. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. When I did, my blood ran cold. Instead of Quinn's prescribed tablets, there were small, white candies. Sugar pills. "Someone call 911!" I shouted, my voice cracking with panic. "Oh, Karen, don't be so dramatic." My sister Lindsay's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. She stood in the stage wing, arms crossed, wearing that same smirk she'd had since we were kids. "She's probably just nervous." I whirled around. "These aren't her pills. Someone replaced them with candy." "Really?" Lindsay's eyebrows rose in mock surprise. "Well, maybe a little humility would do her good. She's been getting awfully full of herself lately, don't you think?" The world stopped spinning. "What did you say?" "Karen," my mother Sylvia appeared beside Lindsay, already shaking her head. "Stop causing a scene. Quinn is fine. She's just seeking attention, just like you always did." Quinn's breathing was getting worse. I could see the fear in her eyes as she clutched my hand. "My daughter needs emergency medical attention," I said through gritted teeth, pulling out my phone. "Someone tampered with her medication." "Don't you dare call 911, Sylvia hissed. "Think of how it will look. Think of your sister's wedding next month. We don't need this kind of drama right now." I hit the emergency dial button anyway, watching Lindsay's smirk fade slightly. "Yes, hello?" My daughter's collapsed at the Riverside Community Centre. She has a medical condition and someone's tampered with her medication. "Karen!" Sylvia grabbed for my phone, but I stepped away. The paramedics arrived within minutes, though it felt like hours. As they loaded Quinn onto a stretcher, I heard Lindsay whisper to our mother, "She's always been jealous of the attention I get. This is probably just another one of her stunts." I watched them wheel my baby girl toward the ambulance, her small hand still reaching for mine. The stage lights felt too bright, the whispers of the lingering audience too loud. My sister's words echoed in my head. A little humility would do her good. That's when something inside me changed. Maybe it was the way Quinn's fingers had trembled as she grasped my hand, or maybe it was 38 years of swallowing my sister's cruelty while our mother looked the other way. But in that moment, watching the ambulance doors close on my daughter's pale face, I made a decision. "Karen," Sylvia called out as I headed for my car. "Where are you going?" "We need to discuss how to handle this situation." I turned to face them both. My mother in her expensive dress, my sister with her perfectly styled hair, and that damn smirk still playing at the corners of her mouth. "I'm going to the hospital with my daughter," I said calmly, "and then I'm going to make sure you both learn what real humility feels like." "Is that a threat?" Lindsay laughed, but there was uncertainty in her eyes now. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Instead, I got in my car and followed the ambulance, my hand steady on the steering wheel for the first time since Quinn collapsed. They thought they knew me. The quiet sister, the obedient daughter, the one who always backed down. But they had never seen me as a mother protecting her child. That was the day I decided they would pay, not just for Quinn's sake, but for every time they'd hurt us and walked away smiling. And I knew exactly where to start. The steady beep of Quinn's heart monitor was the only sound in the hospital room as I watched her sleep. She looked so small in that white bed, her dark hair spread across the pillow like spilled ink. The doctor said she'd be okay, but those hours of uncertainty had aged me a decade. My phone buzzed again, the 15th text from my mother in 2 hours. I finally checked it. "Coming home soon? Need help arranging flowers for Lindsay's bridal shower tomorrow." I switched the phone off and dropped it in my purse. That's when I noticed Quinn stirring. "Mum." Her voice was scratchy. "I'm here, baby." I moved closer, brushing hair from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Better." She paused, picking at her blanket. "Aunt Lindsay did it, didn't she? She switched my pills." My chest tightened. "What makes you say that?" "I heard her talking to Grandma last week. She said I was showing off with the Chopin piece, that I needed to learn my place." Quinn's eyes met mine. Why does she hate me so much? Before I could answer, my best friend Lara appeared in the doorway, carrying a teddy bear and what looked like legal documents. "Hey, sweetie," she said to Quinn, setting the bear beside her. "Mind if I borrow your mum for a minute?" In the hallway, Lara's smile disappeared. "I brought what you asked for, your father's will and trust documents." "Thanks." I took the folder, remembering that day 6 months ago when Dad's will was read. Lindsay had been so sure she'd get control of the family trust. The look on her face when it went to me instead. I'd never seen her so angry. "Karen," Lara's voice was gentle, "what are you planning?" "I'm going to make sure my sister's perfect wedding never happens. That's a lot of money to mess with." "Are you sure?" "She tried to hurt my daughter Lara on purpose." My voice cracked, and Mum's already trying to sweep it under the rug like she always does. As if on cue, my mother's voice rang out from the elevator bank. "Karen, there you are!" Sylvia strode toward us in her designer suit, perfectly coiffed as always. "Why aren't you answering your phone?" "The florist needs decisions for tomorrow's shower, and Lindsay is beside herself with worry." "Worry?" I laughed. "About what? That she'll face consequences for once?" "Don't be ridiculous." Sylvia waved her hand dismissively. "Quinn is fine. You're being dramatic as usual. Now, about the flowers. My daughter's in the hospital because Lindsay tampered with her medication." "You can't prove that." Sylvia's eyes narrowed. "And I won't have you spreading such vicious lies about your sister. You've always been jealous of her success." "Success?" I stepped closer. "What success? Living off Dad's trust fund while I actually work for a living?" "Ladies," Lara interrupted, "this is a hospital." Sylvia straightened her jacket. "Karen, I expect you at the house in an hour. We need to discuss how to move forward from this unfortunate incident. Lindsay's wedding is in 4 weeks, and I won't let you ruin it with these accusations." She turned on her heel and left, the click of her shoes echoing down the hallway. Lara touched my arm. "What are you thinking?" I opened the folder, scanning the trust documents until I found what I was looking for. Dad wasn't stupid. He put in a moral turpitude clause. If either of us commits acts of serious misconduct, access to the trust can be denied. "And you have proof of what Lindsay did?" I pulled out my phone, opening the security app. The recital hall has cameras everywhere, including backstage where Lindsay admitted what she did. I pressed play, and her voice filled the air. Maybe a little humility would do her good. Lara's eyes widened. "That's pretty damning." "I'm meeting with the trust lawyers tomorrow." I closed the folder. Lindsay's wedding venue, catering, flowers, it's all being paid through the trust. One signature from me, and it all stops. Your mother will lose her mind. Good. I looked through the window at Quinn, who was already dozing again. Maybe it's time they both learned what real consequences feel like. "What about family peace?" "Peace?" I turned to Lara. "There's never been peace. There's just been me staying quiet while they hurt anyone they want. But not anymore." I clutched the folder tighter. "Not my daughter. Never my daughter." Lara nodded slowly. "Need help with the paperwork?" "Actually," I managed a small smile, "I need help with something bigger. How much do you know about wedding planning?" "Enough to know how to unplan one." We shared a look, and for the first time since Quinn collapsed, I felt steady. Lindsay wanted to teach my daughter about humility? Fine. But first, she'd learn about karma. The trust lawyer's office was exactly what you'd expect, all mahogany and leather, with a view of downtown that probably cost more than my house. I spread the documents across Mr. Patterson's desk while Lara took notes on her tablet. So, let me get this straight, Patterson said, adjusting his glasses. Your sister has already committed to over $150,000 in wedding expenses through the trust. I nodded, pulling up the transaction history on my phone. Venue, deposit, catering, flowers, designer dress, all of it scheduled to clear next week. And you have video evidence of her deliberately endangering your daughter. Plus, medical records and witness statements. I slid the USB drive across his desk. Everything's there. Patterson plugged in the drive and watched the footage, his expression growing darker. When Lindsay's voice came through, maybe a little humility would do her good, he actually winced. Well, he said, removing his glasses, the moral turpitude clause is quite clear. Your father was very specific about protecting the trust from any beneficiary who demonstrated malicious intent or criminal behaviour. So, I can stop the payments. You can do more than that. He tapped the original trust document. You can freeze her access entirely, permanently. My phone buzzed. Another text from Lindsay. Where are you? Vendor needs final payment today. I ignored it. How quickly can we make this happen? I can file the paperwork within the hour. Patterson began typing. But you should know. This will cause quite a stir. Family trusts are meant to protect family, I finished. That's exactly what I'm doing. Back in the parking lot, Lara grabbed my arm. Your phone's blowing up. Sure enough, there were 20 new messages. Most from Lindsay, growing increasingly panicked. Karen, payment didn't go through. Venue manager threatening to cancel. Answer your phone. Then one from my mother. Whatever you're doing, stop it immediately. You're embarrassing the family. It's starting, Lara said quietly. Good. I started my car. Want to grab coffee? I have a feeling we'll need it. At the cafe across street, we hadn't even gotten our drinks when my phone rang. Lindsay's fiancé, Caden. Karen, what's going on? The wedding planner says all the payments are bouncing. Really? I kept my voice neutral. How strange. Lindsay's hysterical. Says you're doing this on purpose. Has she told you about Quinn's recital? About what happened to my daughter? A pause. She said Quinn had a panic attack or something. Ask her about the sugar pills, Caden. Ask her why my 12-year-old ended up in the hospital. Another pause, longer this time. What sugar pills? Check your email in about 5 minutes. You might want to sit down first. I hung up and nodded to Lara, who pressed send on her tablet. The security footage, medical reports, and trust documents were on their way to Caden's inbox. Think he'll actually watch it? Lara asked. He will when the venue cancels tomorrow. My phone buzzed again. My mother. This time I answered. What do you think you're doing? Sylvia's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Protecting my daughter. By ruining your sister's wedding? This is childish, Karen. I raised you better than this. Did you? I stirred my coffee. Because I remember you raising Lindsay to think she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. How's that working out? If you don't fix this immediately, you'll what? Take away my inheritance? Cut me out of the will? Dad already made sure you couldn't touch this trust. That's why he left it to me. Your father would be ashamed of you. No, I said quietly. He'd be ashamed of you. For letting Lindsay hurt Quinn. For defending her instead of protecting your granddaughter. I'm coming over, she snapped. We need to discuss this face to face. I'm not home. And even if I was, there's nothing to discuss. The papers are filed, the trust is frozen. Lindsay's perfect wedding is over. I hung up as another text came through. From Caden. Just watch the video. We need to talk. All of us. Lara leaned forward. Ready for phase 2? I pulled out the second set of documents. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers from the trust to my mother's personal account, labelled as maintenance expenses. Mum's been skimming from the trust for years, I said. Time to freeze her access too. That means she'll lose the house, Lara reminded me. Your childhood home. I thought about Quinn in that hospital bed. About years of watching Lindsay hurt people while our mother looked the other way. About Dad's signature on the trust documents, giving me control because he knew this day would come. Good, I said, reaching for my phone. Time to call Patterson again. The cafe door chimed and Lindsay burst in, mascara running down her face. What have you done? I took a slow sip of coffee. I taught you about humility. Lindsay slammed her hands on our cafe table, making the coffee cups rattle. Fix this, now. I can't, I said calmly. The trust is frozen pending investigation of criminal misconduct. Criminal? She laughed hysterically. It was a joke, a harmless prank. A prank? I stood up slowly. Quinn could have died. Oh, please. Lindsay rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. She was fine. She was in the hospital. For one night. Meanwhile, you're destroying my entire wedding. Her voice cracked. The venue just cancelled. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Almost as embarrassing as watching your daughter collapse on stage. Lara touched my arm. Maybe we should continue this somewhere more private. Too late. Other customers were already staring, phones out, recording. Perfect. You've always been jealous, Lindsay hissed. Always trying to make everything about you. Even Dad's death. You somehow manipulated him into giving you control of the trust. I never asked for the trust, I said. Dad gave it to me because he knew you couldn't be trusted with it. Ladies? A cafe employee approached nervously. I'm going to have to ask you to... It's fine, I said, gathering my things. We're leaving. Outside, Caden was waiting by his car. His face was stone cold. Lindsay, we need to talk. Not now, honey. She tried to touch his arm, but he stepped back. Yes, now. About the video Karen sent me. About what really happened at Quinn's recital. Lindsay's face went white. What video? The security footage. He pulled out his phone. Where you admitted to switching her medication. Where you said she needed to learn humility. That's not... I didn't... Lindsay spun toward me. You recorded me? The venue recorded you, I corrected. I just requested the footage. You bitch! She lunged at me, but Caden caught her arm. Stop it! He snapped. Do you realise what you did? You could have killed your niece. I would never. But you did, I cut in. And now everyone knows. The venue knows, the caterers know, the florist knows. Want to guess why they're all cancelling? Lindsay's phone buzzed. She looked at it and let out a small sob. The dress shop just cancelled my final fitting. They're refunding the deposit. Karen. My mother's voice made us all turn. She stood there in her Chanel suit, practically vibrating with rage. This ends now. Whatever game you're playing. It's not a game. I handed Caden another envelope. These are bank records showing unauthorised transfers from the trust. Mum's been stealing money for years. Sylvia's face went pale. How dare you? Those were authorised maintenance expenses. For your spa trips, your shopping sprees, your secret apartment in the city. I shook my head. Dad's will was very specific about what qualified as maintenance. Your lifestyle doesn't. What apartment? Lindsay asked sharply. Sylvia shot me a look that could kill. This is ridiculous. I'm your mother. And I'm Quinn's mother. I stepped closer. You chose to protect Lindsay after she hurt my daughter. Now you can both face the consequences. Consequences? Sylvia laughed bitterly. Like what? Like eviction? I pulled out one final document. The house is part of the trust. With your access frozen, you have 30 days to vacate. The colour drained from her face. You wouldn't. Watch me. Caden cleared his throat. I think we need to postpone the wedding. What? Lindsay whirled around. No, we can't. We have to. He wouldn't meet her eyes. I can't marry someone who would deliberately hurt a child. I didn't. Lindsay started crying. Karen, please. You have to fix this. I'll apologise to Quinn. I'll do anything. It's too late. I checked my watch. The trust board meets in an hour to review the evidence. After that, neither of you will ever see a penny from Dad's money again. You'll regret this, Sylvia said quietly. Family is forever, Karen. No, I replied, getting into my car. Family is a choice, and you both made yours when you chose to hurt Quinn. As I drove away, I watched in my rearview mirror. Lindsay crying on the sidewalk, Caden walking to his car alone, my mother standing straight-backed and proud even as her world crumbled. My phone buzzed. A text from Quinn. When are you coming back to the hospital? I smiled, making a U-turn. There was only one family member who mattered now, and she was waiting for me. Behind me, I could hear Lindsay's screams echoing across the parking lot. You've ruined everything. No, I thought. I just showed you what real humility feels like. The attic of my childhood home smelled exactly the same, like old books and broken promises. I hadn't planned on coming here, but Lara insisted we needed to check for documents before my mother's eviction. Look at this, Lara called from behind a stack of boxes. Letters from your dad? Mum keeps everything, I said, but then froze when Lara held them up. They were addressed to me. These were never opened, Lara said quietly. My hands shook as I broke the first seal. The letter was dated just weeks before Dad died. My dearest Karen, if you're reading this, I've finally found the courage to tell you the truth. I've watched for years as your mother and sister hurt you, and my silence makes me complicit. I'm leaving you the trust not because you're more responsible, though you are, but because you're the only one who will protect what's right. I'm sorry I couldn't stop them from hurting you, but I can give you the power to stop them from hurting Quinn. Karen? Lara's voice seemed far away. You okay? I wiped my eyes. He knew. All this time he knew what they were like. A floorboard creaked behind us. What are you doing up here? My mother stood in the attic doorway, her face tight with anger. I held up the letters. When were you going to give these to me? Those are private. They're addressed to me, my voice cracked. Dad wrote them for me, and you hid them. To protect you, she snapped. Your father was confused near the end. He said things he didn't mean, like the truth. I opened another letter. Like how you've been manipulating both your daughters for decades. Get out of my house. It's not your house anymore. I stood up. The trust board made their decision an hour ago. You and Lindsay are both permanently cut off. Her face went blank. You're bluffing. Check your bank account. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling as she typed. The colour drained from her face. What have you done? What Dad should have done years ago. I gathered the letters. Stopped you. Mum? Lindsay appeared behind her, eyes red from crying. Caden's calling off the wedding. He won't even talk to me. Fix this, my mother demanded. Now. No. Then I'll tell everyone what you're really like, Lindsay threatened. How you've always been jealous, always wanted what I had. Go ahead. I pulled out my phone. But first, explain this. I played the security footage again, this time with enhanced audio. Lindsay's voice filled the attic. A little humility would do her good. She's too perfect, just like her mother. Turn that off. Lindsay lunged for my phone, but Lara stepped between us. It's already online, I said calmly, along with the hospital records and police report. Police report. My mother's voice shook. Tampering with medication is a felony. I moved toward the stairs. The detective wants to speak with you both tomorrow. You'd send your own sister to jail? Lindsay whispered. You could have killed my daughter. She's fine. Because we got lucky, I shouted, making them both jump. Because the ambulance came quickly. Because the doctors knew what to do. But you didn't know that when you switched her pills, did you? You just wanted to hurt her, to hurt me. Silence filled the attic. Dust motes danced in the afternoon light, streaming through the window. Your father would be ashamed, my mother said finally. I held up his letters. Actually, I think he'd be proud. He left me these letters and the trust for exactly this moment when someone needed to protect this family from you two. My phone buzzed. A text from Quinn's nurse. She's asking for you. I have to go, I said, heading down the stairs. The eviction notice gives you 30 days. I suggest you start packing. Karen, wait. Lindsay's voice was small. Please. I'll apologise to Quinn. I'll do anything. I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? All those years, you thought Quinn needed a lesson in humility, but it was you who needed to learn what it feels like to lose everything. Outside, Lara let out a long breath. That was intense. It's not over, I said, getting into my car. They'll try something else. They always do. What makes you so sure? I held up Dad's letters. Because he warned me they would, and this time, I'll be ready. As we drove away, I watched my mother and sister in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway of the house they'd soon lose. They looked small somehow, diminished without their power and pride. My phone buzzed again, another text, this time from an unknown number. You've made a terrible mistake. Blood is thicker than water. I showed it to Lara. See? Already starting. What are you going to do? I smiled grimly. Exactly what Dad would have wanted. Protect what's right. The video arrived in my inbox at 3 a.m, sent anonymously, but I knew it had to be from one of Caden's event staff. The footage showed my mother and sister in what looked like a hotel conference room, their voices rising above the sound of moving furniture. This is all your fault, Sylvia screamed at Lindsay. You couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? Had to teach Quinn a lesson. Now look what's happened. I watched it 3 times before forwarding it to Patterson, my trust lawyer. His response came minutes later. This is exactly what we needed. Quinn was being discharged today, and I was gathering her things when Caden appeared in the doorway of her hospital room. Can we talk? He asked quietly. Quinn looked between us. Mum, it's okay. I need to pack anyway. In the hallway, Caden ran a hand through his dishevelled hair. I called off the wedding permanently. I heard, Lindsay, she's not who I thought she was. He pulled out his phone. Look at these texts she's been sending me. The messages were unhinged. Threats, guilt trips, promises to change. Classic Lindsay. She'll never change, I said. Neither will my mother. I know that now. He hesitated. There's something else. They're planning some kind of replacement wedding party. Private event, close friends only. They're trying to save face. I laughed. With what money? That's just it. They're asking guests to help fund it, calling it a love offering or something. My phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. Your mother is trying to file for emergency guardianship of Quinn. Claims you're mentally unstable. Wow, I showed Caden the message. They really don't give up. Karen, Lindsay's voice echoed down the hospital corridor. She was walking toward us wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying what looked like a gift bag. "You need to leave," Caden said firmly. "I'm here to apologize to my niece." She tried to push past us into Quinn's room. I blocked the doorway. "No, you can't keep me from her forever." Lindsay's voice cracked. "I made a mistake. I want to make it right." "A mistake?" I stepped closer. "You deliberately tampered with life-saving medication. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. The police already question me. They can't prove anything." "No." I pulled out my phone. "What about this new video? The one where you and Mom are screaming about how you had to teach Quinn a lesson." Her face went white. "What video?" "The one that's being added to the police report right now." "You're lying." "Mom?" Quinn called from inside the room. "Can we go home now?" Lindsay tried one last time to look past me. "Quinn, honey, I brought you a present. Stay away from my daughter." My voice was ice. "Or the next call I make won't be to the trust lawyers. It'll be to the district attorney." She backed away slowly, then turned and ran toward the elevator. Caden watched her go with a mixture of pity and disgust. "I can't believe I almost married her," he said quietly. Back in Quinn's room, she was sitting on the edge of her bed, fully dressed and ready to go. "Was that Aunt Lindsay?" "Yes, but she's gone now." "Good." Quinn picked up her backpack. "I don't want to see her anyway." My phone buzzed again, this time from Patterson. "Emergency hearing tomorrow regarding your mother's guardianship petition. Don't worry, we have everything we need to shut it down." "What's wrong?" Quinn asked, seeing my expression. "Nothing, baby." I helped her with her jacket. "Just more drama from Grandma and Aunt Lindsay." "They're not going to stop, are they?" "No." I squeezed her hand. "But they can't hurt us anymore." As if on cue, my mother's voice carried from the nurse's station. "I'm her grandmother. I have a right to see her." "Time to go," I said, guiding Quinn toward the back exit. In the parking lot, Lara was waiting with her car running. "Need a getaway driver?" Quinn managed a small laugh as we climbed in. Through the rear window, I could see my mother bursting out of the hospital entrance, looking around wildly. "Where are we going?" Quinn asked. "Home," I said. "And then, tomorrow, we're going to make sure they never try something like this again." "How?" I thought about the video, the police report, Dad's letters, and the trust documents. "By showing everyone exactly who they really are." Lara pulled onto the highway just as my mother spotted our car. The last thing I saw in the mirror was her standing in the middle of the parking lot, screaming something we couldn't hear. "Mom!" Quinn's voice was small. "Are we going to be okay?" I reached back and took her hand. "We already are, baby. We already are." My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Patterson. "Everything's ready for tomorrow. They won't know what hit them." Good, I thought, because this time the lesson in humility would be permanent. The replacement wedding party was in full swing when I walked into the country club's ballroom. Lindsay had managed to gather about 50 people, mostly her friends who didn't know the full story yet. My mother stood near the champagne fountain, pretending everything was fine. I wasn't invited, of course, but I didn't need an invitation anymore. "Oh, God," Lindsay whispered when she spotted me. "Security! Security!" "They won't help you," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on the nearest table. "I'm still a member here. Dad made sure of that." "Get out!" My mother hurried over, her face flushed. "Haven't you done enough damage?" "Actually," I pulled out a stack of folders, "I'm just getting started." Caden emerged from the crowd. "What's going on?" "Karen's trying to ruin everything again," Lindsay sobbed. "On my special day." "Special day?" I laughed. "You mean your fake wedding party? The one you're funding with donated money because you lost access to the trust?" The room got quieter. Guests were starting to pay attention. "You want to know why she lost access?" I raised my voice slightly. Because she tampered with my daughter's medication, put her in the hospital, and my mother helped cover it up. That's a lie, Sylvia snapped. Really? I opened my briefcase. I have copies for everyone. Security footage, hospital records, police reports, and the Trust Board's official findings. Oh, and let's not forget Dad's letters. What letters? Someone asked. I thought, the ones my mother hid from me. The ones where Dad explained why he left me in charge of the trust, because he knew exactly what kind of people they were. Lindsay lunged for the briefcase, but Caden caught her arm. Don't, he said quietly. It's over. I also have something else, I continued, pulling out one final document. The results of the Morgan Stanley audit, showing how my mother has been embezzling from the trust for years. The whispers grew louder. People were backing away from my mother and sister. You're just jealous, Lindsay screamed. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous? I stepped closer. Of what? Your fake life? Your lies? The way you hurt people and expect everyone to pretend it's okay? I'm your sister. No, I said quietly. You're just someone who shares my DNA. And now everyone knows exactly who you are. My mother tried one last time. Your father would be ashamed. Don't you dare talk about Dad. I pulled out his last letter. Want me to read what he really thought of you both? He wrote it all down. Please, Lindsay whispered, don't do this. Like you didn't do this to Quinn? Like you didn't try to humiliate my daughter? The room was silent now. Every eye was on us. You know what's funny? I looked around at the gathered crowd. All these people donated money to help you save face. Did you tell them where the trust money really went? Did you tell them about Quinn? I think, Caden said loudly, this party is over. People began gathering their things, murmuring amongst themselves. Someone unplugged the music. The champagne fountain gurgled to a stop. You've ruined everything, my mother hissed. No, I corrected her. You did that yourselves. I just made sure everyone knew about it. I left the folders on the table and walked out, leaving them standing in their empty party room. As I reached my car, I could hear Lindsay's sobs echoing across the parking lot. My phone buzzed, a text from Quinn. How did it go? It's done, I typed back. Want to go play some piano? At the hospital conservatory? Yeah. I heard there's a little girl in the cancer ward who loves music. Thought maybe you could play for her. On my way. I started the car, glancing back at the country club one last time. Through the windows, I could see people hurrying to their cars, leaving my mother and sister alone in their ruined celebration. My phone buzzed again. Lara this time. Did you do it? Yes, I replied. And you know what? It didn't even feel like revenge. It felt like justice. Later that evening, I sat in the hospital conservatory, watching Quinn play Chopin for a small girl in a wheelchair. The child's face lit up with every note, and Quinn was smiling. Really smiling, for the first time since the recital. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from an unknown number. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I deleted it without responding. They were wrong. Family isn't forever. Family is a choice. And sometimes the best choice is to walk away and build something better. Quinn hit the final notes of the piece, and the little girl clapped with delight. This, I thought, is what really matters. Not revenge, not punishment, just love, music, and the truth finally set free. The autumn wind scattered leaves across my father's headstone as Quinn and I approached with fresh flowers. She carried a single red-tipped rose, his favourite, and something else clutched in her small hand. Can I do it, Mom? I nodded, watching as she placed the rose against the granite, then carefully set a single sugar candy beside it. Our private joke, our reminder of how everything had changed. I played Chopin again yesterday, Quinn told the headstone. The whole piece this time. No interruptions. My phone buzzed. Another letter from my mother, forwarded by her attorney. I deleted it without reading, just like all the others. The last one I'd opened had been the same old story. Half apologies wrapped in guilt and manipulation. "Mum?" Quinn pointed toward the cemetery entrance. "Isn't that Aunt Lindsay's fiancé? I mean, ex-fiancé?" Caden was walking toward us, hands in his pockets against the chill. "I heard Lindsay moved away," he said when he reached us. "Some small town out west. Changed her name." "I know." I'd received the private investigator's report last week. She was working as a waitress, drowning in debt now that the trust money was gone forever. "How did you find us here?" "Your friend Lara told me. I wanted you to know. I testified at the disciplinary hearing about what Lindsay did to Quinn." Quinn squeezed my hand. "The medical board had suspended our family doctor for covering up the medication tampering at my mother's request. One more consequence neither of them had seen coming." "Thank you," I said quietly. "Is it true about your mum? That she lost the house?" "The trust sold it last week." I smiled slightly. "To a lovely family with 3 kids who can't wait to renovate it." "And the money?" "Going to children's hospitals. Dad would have liked that." Quinn tugged my sleeve. "Can I go play by the oak tree? Just for a minute?" I watched her skip away, her dark hair catching the sunlight. She was stronger now, more confident. The nightmares about the recital had finally stopped. "She's resilient," Caden observed. "She is." I turned back to my father's grave. "More than any of us knew." "Listen." Caden shifted uncomfortably. "There's something else. Your mother, she's been calling my office, trying to get me to help her appeal the trust decision. Says she's living in some tiny apartment now." "Good. You really don't feel bad? About any of it?" I thought about Quinn collapsed on that stage, about years of watching Lindsay hurt people while our mother enabled her, about Dad's letters hidden away while I blamed myself for everything. "No," I said finally. "I don't feel bad. They chose cruelty over kindness, pride over love, every single time." "Mom!" Quinn called from the oak tree. "Look what I found." She came running back with something in her hands, a perfect red maple leaf, the same colour as the tip of the rose on Dad's grave. "Can we press it in your journal, like Grandpa taught us?" My throat tightened. "Of course we can." Caden cleared his throat. "I should go. I wanted you to know you did the right thing. All of it." After he left, Quinn and I stood quietly by Dad's grave. The wind picked up, sending more leaves dancing around us. "Do you miss them?" Quinn asked suddenly. "Grandma and Aunt Lindsay?" "I miss who I wanted them to be," I answered honestly, "but not who they really were." "Me too." She placed the maple leaf carefully next to the sugar candy. "But I'm glad we have each other." My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Lara. "Hospital board approved the new children's wing. The trust money's doing good things." I showed Quinn the text, watching her face light up. "Want to go play piano for the kids in the cancer ward again?" "Yes!" She practically bounced with excitement. "I learned a new piece just for them." As we walked back to the car, I glanced over my shoulder at Dad's grave. The red-tipped rose stood bright against the grey stone, the sugar candy and maple leaf beside it like small offerings to memory. They say revenge is sweet, but this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about protecting what mattered, about choosing love over obligation. Dad had known that when he left me the trust. He'd known exactly what would happen one day. "Ready?" Quinn called from the car. "Ready," I answered, turning away from the past and towards something better. Something real. They say family is forever, but they're wrong. Family is a choice, and sometimes The best choice is to let go of the family you were born with and build the one you deserve. Quinn was already humming her new piece as we drove away, and I smiled. This was our forever now, and it was better than anything revenge could have given us.
Too pathetic to ever leave the nest anyway. The words hit me like a slap through the kitchen wall. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips, listening to my sister Noelle's voice carry from the living room where she was video chatting with our parents. I mean, come on, Mom. Blair's 29 and still living at home. When's the last time she even went on a date? She's never going to use that down payment money. It's just sitting there gathering dust while I'm actually ready to start my life. My name is Blair, and I've spent the last decade being invisible in my own family. The responsible one. The reliable one. The one who never caused drama or asked for anything. Apparently, that made me pathetic. She has a point, Chloe. I heard Dad's voice through the phone speaker. Noelle's got her career taking off. She's with Dwayne now. Maybe it's time we helped the daughter who's actually going somewhere. The home fund. $28,000 my parents had been saving since I was 16, supposedly for my first house down payment. I'd watched that account grow for 13 years, believing it represented their faith in my future. Turns out it was just money waiting for someone more deserving to claim it. Blair won't even know what hit her, Noelle laughed. She's probably forgotten the money exists. She's too busy with her little spreadsheets and her boring job to think about actually moving out. My boring job. If only they knew. I set my mug down carefully, hands steady despite the rage building in my chest. Through the doorway, I could see Noelle sprawled across our parents' old leather couch, perfectly manicured nails gesturing as she spoke. Even at 27, she had this way of making every room revolve around her. I've already found the perfect place, she continued, this gorgeous apartment in the Meridian building downtown. The landlord's some faceless LLC, but the unit is stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, exposed brick, the works. With the down payment money, I could actually afford the deposit and first few months while my influencer income stabilizes. Influencer income. Right. Noelle's Instagram account, where she posed with products she couldn't afford, pretending to live a lifestyle funded entirely by our parents' credit cards. You know what, sweetheart? Mom's voice was warm in a way it never was when she talked to me. Your father and I have been talking, and we think you're absolutely right. Blair's always been our little homebody. She's comfortable here, and honestly, we love having her. But you're ready to soar. I pressed myself against the wall, invisible as always, listening to my family carve up my future like a Thanksgiving turkey. Should we tell Blair? Dad asked. Why upset her? Noelle's voice was sugar sweet. She's never even mentioned the fund. For all we know, she's forgotten about it completely. Besides, it's not like she's going anywhere. This is Blair we're talking about. They all laughed. Actually laughed. I slipped upstairs to my room, the same room I'd occupied since high school, and closed the door. My laptop sat open on my desk, displaying the same spreadsheets Noelle had mocked. Boring spreadsheets tracking property values, rental yields, market trends. Boring spreadsheets that had made me very, very wealthy. I opened my banking app and stared at the number that never failed to make my heart race. 7 figures. More money than my parents had ever dreamed of, earned through careful investments, late-night research, and a talent for seeing potential where others saw problems. My phone buzzed with a text from Jack, my business attorney, and the only person who knew the truth about my double life. Meridian Building just hit the market. Thought you might be interested. Owner's looking for a quick, quiet sale. The Meridian Building, where my dear sister wanted to start her new life with my stolen down payment. I smiled for the first time all day and typed back, "Send me everything. Let's see who's really pathetic." 3 days later, I stood in Noelle's new apartment, watching her flutter around like a butterfly showing off its wings. The Meridian Building was everything she'd described, sleek, modern, the kind of place that screamed, "I've made it," to anyone scrolling through Instagram. "Isn't it just perfect?" Noelle gushed to a cluster of her friends, all holding champagne flutes and nodding appreciatively. The moment I saw it, I knew it was meant to be mine. Mom and Dad beamed from the kitchen island, soaking up compliments about their successful daughter. I nursed a glass of wine in the corner, playing my role as the quiet sister who tagged along to family events. "Blair, honey, come see the view," Mom called, her voice carrying that forced enthusiasm she used when she remembered I existed. I joined them at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The apartment really was stunning. Hardwood floors, exposed brick, an open concept that made the space feel twice its actual size. My sister had good taste, I'd give her that. Must be expensive, I said casually. Oh, we helped with the down payment, Dad said, puffing up with pride. Sometimes you have to invest in your children's futures, you know. That's so generous of you both, said a woman I didn't recognize, extending her hand. I'm Eliza, from 4B. I live just down the hall. Eliza looked to be in her mid-30s, with kind eyes and the slightly frazzled appearance of someone juggling too many responsibilities. She had paint under her fingernails and wore a cardigan that had seen better days. Blair, I replied, shaking her hand. Noelle's sister. Oh, how wonderful. It's so nice when family supports each other. Eliza glanced around the apartment. I have to say, your sister picked a great building, though I hope the new management company will be more responsive than the last one. New management company? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Haven't you heard? Eliza lowered her voice. The building just sold. Some investment firm bought it last week. We're all a bit nervous about what changes might be coming. What kind of changes? You know how it is with these corporate landlords. Rent increases, stricter policies, fancy renovations that jack up costs. She sighed. I've been here 3 years, and it's been perfect. Affordable, quiet, great neighbors. I just hope whoever bought it doesn't try to push out the long-term tenants. Across the room, Noelle was posing for photos with Dwayne, her boyfriend of 6 months. He had his arm around her waist, both of them grinning at the camera like they'd conquered the world. This place is going to look amazing on your feed, Dwayne was saying. Very aspirational. Your followers are going to eat this up. I know, right? And the best part is, it's all mine. Well, mostly mine. Noelle giggled. My parents helped with the deposit, but I'm covering rent myself, finally proving I can be independent. Independent, with mom and dad's money and Dwayne probably covering half her expenses. Excuse me, I said to Eliza. I need some air. I stepped onto the balcony, pulling out my phone. Jack had sent me the building's financial records earlier that morning. 24 units, mostly young professionals, average rent well below market rate. The previous owner had been hands-off, more interested in steady income than maximum profit. My phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Paperwork's ready. You sure about this? I looked back through the glass doors at my family. Mom was taking selfies with Noelle. Dad was explaining to someone how proud he was of his daughter's entrepreneurial spirit. Nobody had noticed I'd stepped outside. Blair! Eliza appeared beside me on the balcony. Sorry, I followed you out. You looked like you needed some fresh air, too. Just taking a break from the crowd. I get it. These parties can be overwhelming. She leaned against the railing. Your sister seems lovely, but I have to ask. Do you know anything about the new building owner? I've been trying to find information online, but it's all hidden behind LLC names and corporate filings. Why are you so worried? I'm a single mom, Eliza said quietly. My daughter starts kindergarten at the school 2 blocks away in the fall. This apartment, this neighborhood, it's perfect for us. But if they double the rent or decide they want to renovate. She trailed off. Inside, Noelle was holding court, telling everyone about her amazing new chapter and how the apartment was exactly what she deserved. I'm sure it'll be fine, I told Eliza, the lie sitting heavy on my tongue. My phone buzzed again. Jack, building inspection scheduled for Monday. Once that's done, you'll officially own it. I typed back, perfect, let's move forward. The closing took place in Jack's downtown office on a Tuesday morning. I sat across from the seller's representative, a tired-looking man in his 60s who seemed eager to get the paperwork signed and move on with his life. The building's been in my client's family for 30 years, he explained, sliding documents across the mahogany table. He's retiring to Florida, wants a clean break from property management. Jack reviewed each page with his usual thoroughness. Everything looks in order. The LLC structure will maintain your anonymity, Blair. As far as anyone knows, Meridian Properties Group is just another faceless investment company. I picked up the pen, my hand trembling slightly. Once I signed these papers, there would be no going back. The building where my sister lived, where she was building her independent new life with my stolen down payment money, would belong to me. Any second thoughts? Jack asked quietly. None. I signed my name with a flourish. That evening, I sat at the family dinner table, cutting into Mom's pot roast while she gushed about Noelle's latest Instagram post. 43,000 likes already, Mom said, scrolling through her phone. Look at this one. She's doing yoga on her balcony at sunrise. So inspiring. The engagement on her content has really picked up since she moved, Dad added. Living in that building gives her credibility, makes her look successful. Speaking of the building, I said casually, how's Noelle settling in? Any issues with management or anything? Why would there be issues? Mom looked puzzled. I just heard the building changed hands recently. Sometimes new owners like to shake things up. Dad waved dismissively. I'm sure it's fine. These big investment companies know what they're doing. They want reliable tenants who pay on time. Noelle is exactly the kind of resident they'd want to keep. If only he knew. My phone buzzed with a text from Noelle. OMG, the weirdest thing happened today. These maintenance guys showed up and started measuring everything. My neighbor Eliza is freaking out, thinks we're getting new management. So dramatic, lol. I typed back. That does sound weird. Did they say what they were measuring for? Something about property assessment. Probably just routine stuff. Anyway, Dwayne thinks it might mean they're upgrading the building. Maybe we'll get new appliances or something. The next morning, Jack called while I was getting ready for my day job at the accounting firm. The property management company wants to schedule a meeting, he said. They need to discuss transition plans, new lease terms, that sort of thing. How soon? This afternoon, if you're available. They're eager to get everything sorted before the first of the month. I met with the management team at their offices across town. 3 people sat around a conference table with thick folders and laptops open, ready to discuss my new investment. The building's in excellent condition, the lead manager, Sarah, explained. Occupancy rate is 96%, which is outstanding for this market. Most tenants have been there for years. What about rent rates? I asked. Significantly below market, another manager chimed in. The previous owner preferred stability over profit maximization. Current average rent is about 60% of what comparable units go for in the area. I see. I kept my expression neutral. And what would you recommend? Gradual increases, Sarah said. Maybe 15 to 20% annually over the next 3 years to bring everything up to market rate. We'd also suggest updating the lease terms, stricter pet policies, subletting restrictions, that sort of thing. What about current tenants who can't afford the increases? The managers exchanged glances. That's always a challenge, Sarah admitted, but turnover creates opportunities for higher paying tenants. It's just business. Just business. Like stealing your daughter's future was just family. I want new lease terms drafted for all units, I said. 25% rent increase effective next month. No pets, no subletting, no exceptions. Anyone who can't agree to the new terms has 30 days to vacate. That's aggressive, Sarah said carefully. You might lose a significant number of tenants. Then we'll find new ones who can pay market rate. What about the liability? Some of these tenants have been there for years. They might fight the increases. Let them fight. Draw up the paperwork. That evening, my phone exploded with messages. First from Eliza. Blair, I don't know if you've heard, but something terrible is happening at Noelle's building. We all got notices today about massive rent increases and new rules. I'm panicking. Then from Noelle. This is insane. My rent is going up $800 a month, and they're saying no pets allowed. Dwayne was going to move in with his dog. Who does this? Finally, from Mom. Blair, honey, do you know anything about property law? Some horrible company is trying to force Noelle out of her apartment. We need to find out who owns this building and make them see reason. I stared at the messages, a smile spreading across my face. Already on it, Mom, I texted back. I'll see what I can dig up about the new owners. The notices went out on a Friday. By Saturday morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Blair, thank God you answered. Eliza's voice was shaky. I know we barely know each other, but I'm desperate. Did Noelle mention anything about these lease changes? She's pretty upset about it, I said, pacing my bedroom. What exactly did your notice say? Rent increase from $200 to $500 starting next month. No pets, no overnight guests more than 3 nights per week, no subletting. And get this, they want a new security deposit equal to 3 months' rent. That's harsh. Harsh? It's impossible. I'm a teacher, Blair. I can't afford an extra $300 a month, let alone come up with $4,500 for a new deposit. And my daughter's goldfish apparently counts as a pet that has to go. I heard a child's voice in the background asking about the fish. I'm sorry, Eliza. I wish I could help. Actually, maybe you can. You work in finance, right? Do you know anything about property law? Some of the other tenants are talking about organizing, maybe finding a lawyer. I could look into it, I said carefully. What's the name of the company that sent the notices? Meridian Properties Group. Ever heard of them? No, but I'll see what I can find. After hanging up, I pulled up Noelle's Instagram. She'd posted a video rant about greedy corporate landlords that already had hundreds of comments. Her followers were eating it up, sharing stories about their own housing struggles and calling for boycotts of anonymous investment companies. This is exactly what's wrong with our system, she said into the camera, tears streaming down her face. These faceless corporations buy up buildings and destroy communities just to make a profit. They don't care about families, about people's lives. They just see dollar signs. The irony was delicious. My phone rang. Mom. Blair, sweetie, I need you to do some research for us. Noelle's landlord is trying to force her out, and we need to know who we're dealing with. I saw her Instagram post. She seemed really upset. She's devastated. This apartment was supposed to be her fresh start, and now some greedy company is trying to price her out. Your father and I are furious. What do you want me to find out? Everything. Who owns this Meridian Properties Group? What other buildings they own if there have been complaints filed against them? We need ammunition. I'll see what I can do. You're such a good sister, Blair. I know Noelle doesn't always show it, but she really appreciates having you in her corner. Sunday afternoon, I met Eliza at a coffee shop near the building. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. I've been up all night researching tenant rights, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. The good news is they can't just kick us out. The bad news is they can make life so miserable we'll want to leave. What did you find out about the company? That's the weird part. Meridian Properties Group was just registered 3 weeks ago. Before that, the building was owned by some guy named Harold who lived in Phoenix. He sold it to this LLC, but I can't find any information about who's actually behind it. Shell companies are pretty common in real estate, I said. Helps with liability and taxes. Right, but this feels different. The timing is too convenient. Harold puts the building up for sale, and within days someone swoops in and buys it, then immediately starts pushing out long-term tenants? She pulled out her phone and showed me a group text with other tenants. Look at this. Mrs. Patterson in 2A has been there 8 years. She's on a fixed income, can't afford the increase. The couple in 3C just had a baby. They're already stretched thin. And there's this guy, Marcus, who's been there since the building opened. He's talking about just walking away, letting them keep his deposit. I scrolled through the messages. Real people with real problems, all because of my decision. We're meeting tomorrow night in the community room, Eliza continued, trying to figure out our options. Would you come? I know you're not a tenant, but you understand this stuff better than most of us. I don't know if that's appropriate. Please, we need someone who knows how these companies operate, someone who can help us fight back. My phone buzzed with a text from Noelle. Mom told me you're helping research the evil landlord company. You're the best. Maybe we can find some dirt on them and expose what they're doing. I looked at Eliza's hopeful face, then at my sister's message. Okay, I said, I'll be there. Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to us. But I did know. I knew exactly what it meant. And that was the problem. The tenant meeting was held in the building's community room on Monday night. I arrived early, watching through the windows as people trickled in. Eliza had set up folding chairs in a circle with a whiteboard covered in notes about tenant rights and legal options. Blair, you came. Eliza rushed over as I entered. I wasn't sure you'd show up. I said I would. She introduced me to the other tenants. Mrs. Patterson, a retired librarian who'd been clutching the same tissue for the entire conversation. Marcus, a graphic designer who kept checking his phone like he had somewhere better to be. The young couple from 3C, Sarah and Tom, who took turns bouncing their fussy baby. So what do we know about this Meridian Properties Group? Marcus asked once everyone had gathered. Almost nothing, Eliza said, consulting her notes. They're registered in Delaware, which makes it nearly impossible to trace the actual owners. The only contact information is a P.O. box and an answering service. Classic slumlord setup, Tom muttered. Hide behind shell companies so they can screw over tenants without consequences. Has anyone tried calling the number on the notices? Sarah asked. I did, Mrs. Patterson said quietly. Got transferred 3 times and finally reached someone who said all lease negotiations had to be done in writing. No exceptions. What about the property management company? I asked. They have to have some contact with the actual owners. They claim they're just following orders, Marcus said. I went to their office this morning. They acted like they'd never heard of Meridian Properties Group. Eliza turned to the whiteboard. Here's what we're dealing with. 24 units, average rent increase of $400 per month. New pet restrictions affect 8 families. The guest policy impacts basically everyone. Don't forget the new security deposit, Sarah added. 3 months rent upfront. That's $4,500 for us. It's designed to force people out, Tom said, bouncing the baby more aggressively. They want to clear the building and bring in tenants who'll pay premium rates. So what are our options? Mrs. Patterson asked. We could organize a rent strike, Marcus suggested. Refuse to pay the increases until they negotiate. That's risky, I said. They could start eviction proceedings. Blair's right, Eliza agreed. We need to be smart about this. What about going to the media? Noelle's Instagram post got a lot of attention. Maybe we could get a reporter interested. Local news loves these David versus Goliath stories, Sarah said, especially when it involves families with kids. My phone buzzed with a text from Noelle. How's the tenant meeting going? Getting any dirt on the scumbag landlord? I typed back, still gathering information. The thing that bothers me most, Eliza continued, is how calculated this feels, like someone specifically targeted this building, this community. We're not some rundown property in a bad neighborhood. We're good tenants who pay on time and take care of our homes. Maybe that's exactly why they targeted us, Marcus said. Stable building, good location, rents way below market rate. It's a gold mine for the right investor. An investor with no conscience, Mrs. Patterson added. The baby started crying, and Sarah stood to walk him around the room. I keep thinking about timing, she said over the noise. Harold owned this place for 30 years, never raised rent more than $50 at a time. Then suddenly he sells to some mystery company that immediately jacks up prices. Something doesn't add up. What are you suggesting? Tom asked. I don't know. Maybe someone approached Harold specifically. Maybe they knew exactly what they were buying and had a plan from day one. Eliza looked at me. Blair, you understand how these real estate deals work. Does that sound plausible? It's possible, I said carefully. Investment companies do target undervalued properties. They research buildings, look for owners who might be ready to sell. So this could have been planned for months, Marcus said. Some corporate vulture circling our building, waiting for the right moment to swoop in. We need to find out who's really behind Meridian Properties Group, Eliza said. There has to be a paper trail somewhere. My phone rang. Mom. Sorry, I need to take this, I said, stepping into the hallway. Blair, honey, how's the meeting going? Are you getting any useful information? They're trying to organize a response, nothing concrete yet. Well, I have news. Your father called in a favor with his lawyer friend. Apparently, there are ways to force these shell companies to reveal their ownership if you can prove they're acting in bad faith. That's interesting. The lawyer thinks we might have a case. All these sudden changes, the impossible deposit requirements, it looks like harassment designed to clear out existing tenants. Through the community room window, I could see the other tenants still talking, Eliza gesturing at the whiteboard while Mrs. Patterson dabbed at her eyes. Blair? Are you still there? Yeah, Mom, I'm here. I want you to dig deeper into this company. Find out everything you can. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the hallway mirror. My family wanted me to destroy the very company I owned, to help them fight against my own revenge plan. The irony was perfect and terrifying. Noelle's second housewarming party was supposed to be a solidarity gathering for the building's tenants. She'd posted about it on Instagram, calling it a community resistance event against corporate greed. The irony made my stomach turn. I arrived to find the apartment packed with people I recognized from the tenant meeting, plus Noelle's usual crowd of influencer friends. Someone had made a banner that read, "Homes Not Profits," and hung it across the living room window. Blair! Noelle rushed over, phone in hand. I'm so glad you're here. I'm live streaming the whole thing. My followers are obsessed with this story. How many people are watching? Over 3,000 right now. The comments are going crazy. Everyone's sharing their own landlord horror stories. Across the room, Eliza was talking to a woman with a notepad, a reporter, based on her questions about rent increases and tenant rights. This is exactly the kind of story that needs to be told, the reporter was saying. Corporate landlords hiding behind shell companies, pushing out working families for profit. It's gotten worse since the notices went out, Eliza replied. Yesterday they posted new rules about noise complaints. 3 strikes and you're out, no appeals process. I hadn't authorized any new rules. Excuse me, I said, approaching them. What new rules? Oh, Blair, this is Jennifer from Channel 7 News. Eliza turned to the reporter. Blair's been helping us research the company that bought our building. Have you found anything useful? Jennifer asked, pen poised. Still digging, I said. These shell companies are designed to hide ownership. That's exactly the problem, Jennifer said. Accountability disappears when everything's buried in corporate structures. What's the company called again? Meridian Properties Group, Eliza said. I watched Jennifer write it down, knowing she'd spend hours trying to trace ownership back to me. Blair, come here, Mom called from the kitchen. She was standing with Dad and Dwayne, all three holding wine glasses and looking serious. We were just discussing strategy, Dad said. Dwayne thinks we should go after this company's other properties. If they're doing this here, they're probably doing it elsewhere. That's smart, I said. Cast a wider net. I've been researching similar cases, Dwayne added. There's a pattern with these investment groups. They buy buildings in gentrifying neighborhoods, force out long-term tenants, then flip the units for double the rent. Exactly, Mom said. It's predatory behavior, and someone needs to stop them. The thing is, Dad continued, lowering his voice, we might need to hire a private investigator, someone who can dig deeper than what's publicly available. How much would that cost? I asked. A few thousand, maybe more. But it's worth it to protect Noelle. Protect Noelle, with more of their money, while I stood there, knowing exactly who owned the building. I'll contribute, I said, whatever you need. Oh, honey, that's so sweet of you, Mom said, patting my arm. But you don't need to worry about it. Your father and I can handle the expenses. I want to help. You're already helping by doing research. That's your strength, the numbers and paperwork. Leave the financial stuff to us. Across the room, Noelle was interviewing Mrs. Patterson on her phone, asking about the impact on fixed-income seniors. The old woman looked uncomfortable, but was trying to be helpful. This is such good content, Noelle said to her friend Maya. My engagement has tripled since I started posting about this. Brands love when influencers take on social causes. You're literally getting famous off your housing crisis. Maya laughed. That's so on brand for you. I know, right? And the best part is, I actually care about this stuff. It's not just performative. I walked onto the balcony, needing air. The city stretched out below, thousands of lights and windows where people were living their lives, paying rent, trying to get by. My phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Saw the news story online. You sure you want to keep pushing this? The media attention could complicate things. Before I could respond, Eliza joined me outside. Overwhelming in there, she said. A little. I wanted to thank you again for helping us. I know you're not even a tenant, but you've been incredible. I'm just doing research. It's more than that. You care about what happens to us. That means everything. She looked back through the glass doors at the party. Sometimes I wonder what kind of person buys a building full of families and immediately tries to kick them out. Like, do they think about the real impact? The kids who have to change schools? The elderly people who can't afford to move? Maybe they don't think about it at all, I said. That's what scares me most. The idea that we're just numbers on a spreadsheet to them. Inside, Noelle was wrapping up her live stream. We're going to fight this, she told her audience. Corporate greed won't win. Not in our building, not in our community. The comments were flooding in with heart emojis and fire symbols. Her follower count had jumped by 2,000 since the stream started. Blair, she called, spotting me through the window, come say something to my followers about the research you're doing. I shook my head and held up my wine glass, mouthing, too shy. She laughed and turned back to her phone. My sister's the brains behind our investigation, but she's camera shy. Don't worry, we'll get justice for everyone. Justice. If only she knew. The emergency tenant meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 7 p.m. I'd called it myself through the property management company, requesting all tenants attend for important updates regarding building ownership and lease terms. I arrived early, setting up a small table at the front of the community room. Jack sat beside me with a briefcase full of documents. My hands were shaking as I arranged papers, but my voice would be steady. I'd practiced this moment for weeks. You sure about this? Jack whispered. It's time. Tenants began filtering in. Eliza waved at me from across the room, looking confused about why I was sitting at the front table. Mrs. Patterson shuffled in with her walker, followed by Marcus, Sarah, and Tom with their baby, and a dozen others I'd seen around the building. Then my family arrived. Mom, Dad, and Noelle entered together, Noelle already filming on her phone. "This is it, guys," she said to her camera. "We're finally going to meet the mysterious new owner. Time to get some answers." They took seats in the front row, directly across from me. Mom smiled and gave me a little wave, probably wondering why I was sitting with the lawyer. "Good evening, everyone," I said, standing up. "Thank you all for coming." The room quieted. Eliza looked puzzled. "Blair, what are you doing up there?" "I called this meeting because there's been some confusion about the building's ownership, and I thought it was time to clear things up." "Are you representing the tenants?" Marcus asked. "Not exactly." I picked up the deed from the table. "My name is Blair Mackenzie, and I'm the owner of this building. Meridian Properties Group is my company." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then chaos. "What?" Eliza shot to her feet. "That's impossible. You've been helping us fight." "You're the landlord?" Mrs. Patterson's voice was barely a whisper. "Blair, what the hell are you talking about?" Noelle's phone was still recording, capturing her genuine shock. Mom and Dad looked like they'd been slapped. "Honey, this isn't funny," Mom said. "Stop joking around." I pulled out the signed deed and held it up. "I purchased this building 3 weeks ago for $2.8 million. Cash." "You don't have that kind of money," Dad said, his voice getting louder. "Blair, what kind of game are you playing?" "No game, Dad. I've been investing in real estate for 8 years. I own 6 properties across the city, worth about $12 million total." The room erupted again. Tenants were shouting questions. My family was staring at me like I'd grown a second head, and Noelle was still filming everything. "This is insane," Noelle said to her camera. "My sister just claimed she's our evil landlord. This has to be some kind of breakdown." "Show them the bank statements," I said to Jack. He opened his briefcase and pulled out financial documents. "Blair's net worth is approximately $11.8 million. She's been operating under several LLC structures for tax purposes." "But how?" Mom's voice cracked. "You work at an accounting firm. You live in our house. You drive a 10-year-old Honda." "I live simply because I'm building wealth, Mom. Every dollar I didn't spend on clothes or cars or fancy apartments went into investments." "Well, we gave away your down payment money," Dad said slowly, the realization hitting him. "The money you gave to Noelle, yes. $28,000 that was supposed to be for my future." Eliza was backing toward the door. "You lied to us. You sat in our meetings, pretended to help us while you were the one trying to destroy our lives." "I never lied about wanting to help you." "Bullshit!" Marcus stood up. "You raised our rent by 25%. You're trying to kick out families." "I'm bringing rents up to market rate." "Market rate?" Sarah was crying now, the baby fussing in her arms. "We can't afford market rate. That's why we lived here in the first place." Noelle lowered her phone, her face pale. "Blair, tell me this is some kind of sick joke." I reached into my folder and pulled out a personalized eviction notice. "Noelle Mackenzie, Unit 5A, you have 30 days to vacate the premises or agree to the new lease terms. Rent will increase from $800 to $2,400 per month, effective immediately." "You can't be serious." Noelle's voice was barely audible. "I'm dead serious. You wanted to prove you could be independent? Here's your chance." "Blair!" Mom was on her feet now. "What has gotten into you? This isn't like you at all." "Isn't it? The quiet daughter who never asks for anything? The pathetic sister who's too boring to ever leave home?" "We never said?" "You said exactly that, Mom. All of you. I heard you laughing about how pathetic I was, how I'd never use the down payment money anyway." Dad's face went white. "You heard that conversation?" "Every word, about how I was too pathetic to ever leave the nest. How Noelle deserved the money because she was actually going somewhere with her life." The room was dead silent now, except for the babies crying. "So congratulations," I continued. "You were right about one thing. I never left the nest. But I didn't burn it down from the inside either. I bought the whole damn tree." Eliza was at the door now, tears streaming down her face. "You're a monster." "No," I said, watching my family's faces crumble. "I'm just not pathetic anymore." The aftermath hit like a tsunami. Noelle's live stream had captured everything. Within hours, the video was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Reddit. Sister reveals she's evil landlord became the internet's obsession du jour. The comments ranged from iconic revenge queen to absolute psychopath. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Reporters, lawyers, angry tenants, curious investors. I'd turned it off after the 15th call from Channel 7 News. The knock on my bedroom door came at midnight. Blair? Dad's voice was hoarse. Can we talk? I opened the door to find both parents standing in the hallway, looking like they'd aged 10 years in one evening. We need to understand, Mom said. Help us understand how we got here. You want to understand? Let's start with this. I pulled out my laptop and showed them Noelle's Instagram from 6 months ago. A post about family loyalty with a photo of her hugging them at dinner. Read the caption. Dad squinted at the screen. So grateful for parents who believe in their children's dreams. Some people are just born to soar while others are meant to stay grounded. She tagged me in it, I said. 40,000 people saw that post calling me a failure. Blair, we had no idea. There's more. I scrolled through months of posts, Noelle at family dinners, captioned quality time with the people who matter. Noelle getting the apartment keys, finally spreading my wings and leaving the nest. Some of us are ready for independence. Each post had thousands of likes, hundreds of comments about her amazing family and how inspiring it was to see someone break free from mediocrity. She built her entire brand on being better than me, I said, and you helped her do it. Mom sat heavily on my bed. We thought we were supporting her confidence. By tearing down mine? We never meant. You meant exactly what you said. I was pathetic. Too boring to ever leave home. Not worth investing in. Dad was staring at the laptop screen. $12 million. How did we miss this? Because you never looked. In 8 years, neither of you ever asked about my investments, my goals, my plans. You assumed I had none. But why the building? Mom asked. Why hurt innocent people to get back at us? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Eliza. My daughter asked why we have to move. I didn't know what to tell her. The words hit harder than I expected. I need to make some calls, I said. Jack answered on the first ring. Blair, thank God, the media requests are insane. We need to discuss damage control. I want to reverse the rent increases. What? All of them. Set everyone back to their original rates. Blair, that's $250,000 in lost revenue annually. I don't care, and I want to set up a fund for tenants who need help with moving expenses if they choose to leave. Are you sure about this? Do it. The next call was harder. Eliza? It's Blair. I have nothing to say to you. Please just listen. I'm reversing all the rent increases. Everyone goes back to their original rates. Silence. I'm also setting up a fund to help anyone who wants to move. Full deposits returned, plus moving expenses covered. Why? Because you were right. I became a monster. That doesn't fix what you did. No, it doesn't, but it's a start. The hardest conversation came the next morning. Noelle sat across from me at the kitchen table, her eyes red from crying. I keep watching the video, she said, trying to figure out when you started hating me. I don't hate you. You tried to make me homeless, Blair. I tried to make you feel what I felt, powerless, forgotten, like your dreams didn't matter. So you bought my building. So I bought your building. She laughed, but it sounded broken. It's actually kind of brilliant. Completely psychotic, but brilliant. Your rent goes back to the original rate, too. I can't stay there now. Everyone knows what happened. My followers are split between thinking I'm a victim and thinking I deserved it. Where will you go? Dwayne's place, probably, assuming he still wants to date the sister of the internet's most hated landlord. Mom appeared in the doorway. I found something in the attic. She held up a small potted plant, brown and withered. You gave this to me for Mother's Day when you were 12. I kept it all these years, but I guess I forgot to water it. The symbolism was heavy-handed, but it landed anyway. I'm sorry, Blair, Mom said. We failed you as parents. We got so caught up in Noelle's light that we forgot you needed sunlight too. I don't need your apologies. Yes, you do, and we need to give them. Dad joined us, looking exhausted. We're proud of you. What you built, what you accomplished. We should have said that years ago. You're proud that I'm rich? We're proud that you're strong, stronger than we ever gave you credit for. I looked around the kitchen table at my broken family. I'm moving out. Blair, I'm buying a house, a big one, with room for guests. You're all welcome to visit, but I'm done living in the shadows. Noelle wiped her eyes. Will you forgive us eventually? Ask me in a year. What about your building? Your tenants? I'm keeping it, but I'm going to be the kind of landlord I wish I'd had. Fair rent, responsive maintenance, respect for the people who live there. Even after everything. I thought about Eliza's daughter asking why they had to move, about Mrs. Patterson clutching her tissue, about the baby crying while his parents worried about rent they couldn't afford. Especially after everything. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Saw the news. Interested in selling? We'll pay double what you paid. I deleted it without responding. They called me pathetic for never leaving the nest. Turns out I was never the one afraid to fly. I just needed to burn the right bridges to clear my runway. But some things, once burned, can grow back stronger, and some nests are worth rebuilding from the ground up.
I stood in the shadows of the grand ballroom, watching my sister twirl in her $10,000 wedding dress while my credit score burned. The crystal chandeliers caught every sparkle of her tiara, and her laughter echoed off the marble floors, the same laugh she'd used 3 months ago when she'd begged me to co-sign her loan. My name is Zlata, and I'm the responsible sister, the boring one, the one who always comes through in a crisis. Tonight, I'm also the one holding a ticking time bomb disguised as a loan agreement. Zlata, darling, why aren't you dancing? My mother Eleanor's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval. She gestured to the crowded dance floor where Sierra and her new husband Eric were lost in their own world. Someone has to make sure the vendors get paid, I replied, tapping my tablet. Unless you'd like to handle the final payments? She wrinkled her nose and adjusted her designer shawl. That's what you're good at, dear. Numbers. Sierra's always been our creative spirit. I bit back the response I'd been swallowing for 27 years. Instead, I smiled and pulled up the loan document on my screen, checking for the 100th time that the clause was still there, buried in the fine print like a landmine. Remember when she first showed us the venue? My mother continued, misreading my silence for nostalgia. She just knew it had to be here. Worth every penny. Every penny. 50,000 of them, to be exact. I remembered that day too, but differently. Please, Zlata, Sierra had sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks. The bank won't approve us without a cosigner. You're the only one with good enough credit. That's because I actually pay my bills, I'd said. It's what family does, our father had chimed in from his armchair, not looking up from his newspaper. Your sister would do the same for you. I'd almost laughed at that. Sierra had never done anything for anyone except herself. I'll pay every payment, I swear, Sierra had promised, clutching my hands. Eric's startup is about to take off, and we'll be loaded. Please, please, please. Now I watched Eric whisper something in Sierra's ear, making her giggle. He caught my eye across the room and raised his champagne glass with a wink. I raised mine back, wondering if he knew about the clause yet. Wondering if either of them had actually read the paperwork before signing it. Mrs. Foster, a wedding planner materialized beside me. The photographer wants to know if we're still doing the sunset photos on the terrace. Of course we are, Sierra appeared, dragging Eric by the hand. Zlata, you're in these too. You have to. You made all this possible. If she only knew how true that was. I let myself be pulled outside. The setting sun painted everything gold, including Sierra's perfect face as she posed against the balustrade. Our parents joined us, and the photographer arranged us like dolls. The happy family, the perfect wedding, the American dream. Closer together, the photographer called. Big smiles. This is a celebration. I smiled, thinking about the email I'd received that morning from Genesis, my friend in legal. It's bulletproof, she'd written. The clause is active the moment they miss a payment. If they leave the country without setting up a payment plan, liability reverts to the original sponsors, your parents. They signed it too, remember? I remembered. I remembered every signature, every tear-filled manipulation, every guilt trip that had led to this moment. "One more," the photographer called. "Everyone say, 'happily ever after.'" Sierra threw her arms around me, champagne on her breath. "I love you so much, sis. You're the best, the absolute best." Over her shoulder, I watched Eric check his phone, his face momentarily serious, before he slipped it back into his pocket. 3 weeks ago, I'd seen him book 2 one-way tickets to a country with no extradition treaty. He didn't know I knew. Back in my hotel room that night, I opened my laptop one final time. The loan agreement glowed on the screen, signatures clear at the bottom, Sierra's loopy scrawl, Eric's confident slash, my parents' hasty scribbles, and my own careful print. Below them all, the clause waited like a coiled snake. I touched the screen gently. "Let's see who pays now." My phone buzzed. A text from Sierra. "Thank you for everything. You're the best sister anyone could ask for. Love you forever." I didn't reply. Instead, I closed my laptop and poured myself a drink. The real wedding gift was still coming, and I intended to be very, very patient while I waited to deliver it. 6 months after the wedding, I sat in my favorite coffee shop, staring at my phone's call log. 32 attempted calls to Sierra, 16 to Eric, and 48 unanswered text messages. The first loan payment was 3 weeks overdue. "You're obsessing again," Genesis said, sliding into the seat across from me with 2 fresh lattes. "How many times have you checked Instagram today?" I picked up my phone, opened the app, and turned it to show her. Sierra's latest post showed her and Eric on some tropical beach, cocktails in hand. The caption read, "Living our best life, debt-free and destiny-bound. Chaque blessed, chaque new life, chaque no regrets." Genesis's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. You knew this would happen. Knowing doesn't make it sting less. I switched to my messages. "Look what my mother sent this morning." The text read, "The bank called again. Please handle this, Zlata. You know how your father's blood pressure gets when he's stressed." "Have you told them about the clause yet?" Genesis asked. "Not yet. I'm waiting for—" My phone buzzed. A voicemail from Sierra. I put it on speaker. "Hey sis, sorry I've been so hard to reach. The Wi-Fi here is just awful. Listen, about those payment notices you keep forwarding, I know you'll figure it out. You always do. You're so good with money stuff. Anyway, love you. Don't work too hard." Genesis's eyes widened. The audacity— "Wait for it," I said, holding up a finger. The message continued. "Oh, and could you maybe stop calling so much? It's kind of desperate, and Eric says it's bringing down our vibe. Thanks. Kisses." I deleted the message while Genesis muttered something unprintable. "You're sure you want to go through with this?" she asked. "Legally, you're safe. Morally, let them drown." "It's not about them drowning," I said, pulling up my email. "It's about making sure everyone gets wet." My phone buzzed again. My mother. "Zlata, please call me. The bank is being very insistent." I showed Genesis the draft email I'd prepared for the loan agency. Attached was the contract with the clause highlighted, along with proof of Sierra and Eric's departure from the country. "Send it," Genesis said firmly. "Stop torturing yourself." I hesitated, my finger hovering over the send button. Once you do this, you'll finally be free." Genesis reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Remember what they did to you with Dad's medical bills? The college fund they borrowed for Sierra's art school? The down payment for her first car?" My phone lit up with another Instagram notification. Sierra had posted again. "Some people just can't handle seeing others living their dreams. Your toxic family boundaries. Blessed." I hit send. "Done," I said, feeling oddly hollow. "Now we wait." Genesis raised her coffee cup. "To karma." "To contracts," I corrected, clinking my cup against hers. That evening, I sat in my apartment, watching the sunset through my window when my phone rang. It was Stefan, my ex-boyfriend. "I just saw Sierra's posts," he said without preamble. "Are you okay? Are you—" Why wouldn't I be? I kept my voice neutral. Stefan had been there during the medical bills crisis, had watched me empty my savings for my father's heart surgery, while Sierra took a spontaneous trip to Europe. "Because you always take care of everyone," he said softly. "And no one ever takes care of you." I thought about the email I'd sent, about the clause that would soon detonate in my parents' lap. "That's changing." "Good," he said. "It's about time." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and checked my email. The loan agency had already responded. "Dear Ms. Zlata, we acknowledge receipt of your documentation regarding the liability reassignment clause. Our legal team will review and proceed accordingly. Expect contact within 48 hours. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Eric. "Real nice, Zlata. Sierra's crying. Hope you're happy." I typed back. "You should have read the fine print." Then I blocked both their numbers, poured myself a glass of wine, and pulled up the folder where I'd kept every receipt, every transfer, every record of money I'd given to my family over the years. The total could have bought me a house. Instead, it had bought me this moment, waiting for the hammer to fall on the people who had taken me for granted for so long. My mother's words echoed in my head. "It's what family does." I smiled into my wine glass. "Yes, Mother, this is exactly what family does." The memory of drafting the clause was still crystal clear. I'd sat in Genesis's living room 3 months before the wedding, surrounded by takeout containers and legal documents, while she connected me with her lawyer friend on speakerphone. "You want it ironclad," the lawyer had said. "Something they can't wiggle out of." Genesis had topped off my wine glass. "Tell him about the medical bills again." $28,000, I'd said. My entire savings gone because Sierra needed a trip to find herself the same month Dad needed surgery. "And the college fund?" Genesis prompted. "Borrowed, never returned. Sierra's art school dream was apparently more important than my MBA." The lawyer had hummed thoughtfully. "We can work with this. The key is making it seem benign enough that they'll sign without questioning, but specific enough to be legally binding." Now, sitting at my desk at work, I pulled up the final version we'd crafted. "In the event of default, should the primary borrower leave the country without establishing a payment plan, all liability transfers to the original co-signing sponsors, who acknowledge full responsibility for the remaining balance." Simple, clean, devastating. My office phone rang. Zlata speaking. "The clause is active." It was Genesis. "Just got word from legal. Your parents are being contacted today." I checked my email. Sure enough, there was a message from the loan agency. "Per Section 7.3 of the agreement, liability has been transferred to Elena and Wilfred. Initial contact will be made within 24 hours. "How long do you think until—" Genesis started. My cell phone lit up with my mother's number. "Got to go," I said. "It's starting." I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello, Mother." "What is this?" Her voice was shrill. "These people are saying we owe $50,000. This must be a mistake." "No mistake. Check your email. I sent you a copy of the contract you signed." "But—" I heard papers rustling. We only signed as witnesses." "Read Section 7.3, I said calmly. More rustling. Then silence. "You tricked us," she whispered. "No, Mother. I learned from the best. Remember what you told me? It's what family does. Your father's blood pressure. We'll be fine, just like it was fine when I paid for his surgery while Sierra was posting selfies from Paris. That was different. She needed to find herself. Yes, I remember. Now you need to find $50,000. She started crying. The sound used to devastate me, used to send me running to fix whatever problem she was facing. Now it just made me tired. "We'll call Sierra," she said between sobs. She'll make this right. I laughed. Good luck with that. Her number's disconnected. This isn't you, Zlata. You're not this cruel. Actually, this is me. The real me. The one who's done being everyone's ATM. The line went quiet, except for her ragged breathing. Finally, she spoke in a whisper. What do you want? I want you to pay the debt you signed for. I want you to face consequences. I want you to feel what it's like to be responsible for once. We're your parents. Yes. And you taught me everything I know about family loyalty. I hung up and turned my phone off. Through my office window, I could see the city sprawling out below, people rushing about their days, dealing with their own dramas and betrayals. My computer pinged with a new email. From Sierra, sent from a new address. You controlling bitch. You always want to win. Happy now? Mum's hysterical. Dad's chest hurts, and it's all your fault. I never should have trusted you. You're dead to me. I forwarded it to Genesis with just 3 words. Worth every penny. Her response came quickly. Your sister's about to learn that karma takes Venmo. I opened my bottom drawer and pulled out an old photo, the last family vacation we'd taken together. Sierra in the center, as always, our parents beaming at her. Me on the edge, checkbook in hand, paying the hotel bill. My office door opened. It was my junior associate, looking nervous. Ms. Zlata? I need a favor. Could you co-sign on the Miller account? It's just a formality. I looked at him, then at the photo, then back at him. No, I said, I don't co-sign anything anymore. He blinked, surprised by my directness. But it's just a standard procedure. So is paying your own bills, I said, turning back to my computer. Try that first. As he left, I picked up my phone and turned it back on. 12 missed calls from my parents, 5 new emails from Sierra, 1 text from Genesis. How does it feel? I typed back. Like freedom. The collection agency didn't waste any time. 3 days after the clause activation, my mother showed up at my office unannounced, mascara streaking down her face. They're threatening to put a lien on our house, she said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. Your childhood home, Zlata. I kept typing, not looking up. The same house you remortgaged to pay for Sierra's art school? That childhood home? That was different. She had potential, and I didn't. I finally met her eyes. Is that why you took my college fund? We borrowed it, she said weakly. Borrowing implies returning. I pulled up an old spreadsheet. Would you like to see the exact amount with interest? My office phone buzzed. Ms. Zlata, your 2 p.m. is here. Tell them 5 minutes. I turned back to my mother. The collection agency is actually being quite reasonable. They'll accept payment plans. On $50,000? She dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Probably another of Sierra's expensive gifts, bought with someone else's money. Your father can barely sleep. He keeps checking our accounts, trying to find money that isn't there. Like I did when he needed surgery? She flinched. That was years ago. Why are you still holding on to that? Because someone has to remember. Someone has to keep the receipts. My phone lit up with a text from Sierra. Mom's crying because of you, again. You're such a controlling bitch. You always want to win. Happy now? I showed the message to my mother. Your perfect daughter sends her regards. She's scared, my mother said. She's young. She's 27. I was 24 when I paid Dad's medical bills. But you're stronger. You can handle these things. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang in the air. That's interesting, Mother. Tell me more about how being taken advantage of makes me strong. She stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. I didn't raise you to be this cruel. You didn't raise me at all. You were too busy enabling Sierra. We'll lose everything, she whispered. No, you'll lose what you put at risk when you signed that contract. There's a difference. What do you want from us? I finally smiled. I want you to experience consequences, just once. I want you to feel what it's like when no one comes to save you. My phone buzzed again, a video call from Sierra. I answered it, putting it on speaker. You evil witch. Sierra's face was red with rage. Mom just called me sobbing. How could you do this to them? The same way you did it to me, I replied calmly, except I used a contract instead of tears. We're family. Exactly. And this is what family does, remember? Behind Sierra, I could see Eric pacing, talking rapidly on his phone. He looked worried. Having visa troubles? I asked innocently. Sierra's eyes widened. How did you... It's amazing what happens when your credit score tanks and there's an international debt notice with your name on it. My mother gasped. You didn't. I didn't do anything, I said. Actions have consequences. Isn't that what you always told me, Mother? Right before asking me to fix another one of Sierra's mistakes? Sierra's face crumpled. They're going to revoke our visas. Eric's business deals are falling apart. Everything we built here, you built nothing, I cut in. You ran away from debt and responsibility, like you always do. The only difference is this time, there's no one to clean up your mess. Girls, my mother pleaded, we can fix this. Zlata, if you just pay... No. I stood up. My 2 p.m. is waiting. You both know where the door is. Please, Sierra sobbed. I'm your sister, and they're my parents. Funny how that only matters when you need something. I ended the call and turned to my mother. The collection agency's number is on the letter they sent you. I suggest you call them before they call you again. She walked to the door, then turned back. You'll regret this. Someday, when you need your family... I've needed my family many times, I said. Where were you? After she left, I sat in my quiet office, hands shaking slightly. My phone buzzed with a text from Genesis. Drinks tonight? You look like you need them. I typed back, bring wine and the contract. I want to frame it. Another text came through, this one from my father. We thought you wouldn't actually go through with it. I responded with a single line. That's always been your problem. Then I turned off my phone, straightened my desk, and called in my 2 p.m. After all, I had actual work to do. Bills don't pay themselves. Just ask my family. The forced family dinner was my mother's idea. Sunday dinner, like old times, she'd said on the phone, her voice dripping with false sweetness. We need to discuss this situation like adults. I arrived exactly on time to find my parents already seated at their dining room table. A spread of my favorite childhood dishes laid out like emotional ammunition. Your father made your favorite lasagna, my mother said, serving me a generous portion. Remember how you used to help him in the kitchen? I remember paying for his heart medication after making that lasagna, I replied, setting my fork down. Let's skip the nostalgia and get to the point. My father cleared his throat. The bank is being insistent. Banks tend to be that way about money. We've looked at our options, my mother cut in. We could sell the vacation property. The one I was supposed to inherit? I laughed. The one you remortgaged for Sierra's wedding? You're not being fair, my father said quietly. I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. Let's talk about fair. Inside was a spreadsheet. Every dollar I'd given them over the years, meticulously documented with dates and reasons. Page 1, Dad's medical bills, $28,000. Page 2, Sierra's art school tuition, $40,000 of my college fund. Page 3, the down payment for Sierra's first car, $12,000. Should I continue? My mother pushed the folder away. We're not here to dwell on the past. No, you're here because the collection agency is drowning you in calls. We raised you, my father said. We gave you everything. You gave Sierra everything. I earned everything I have. My phone buzzed, a text from Genesis. How's the ambush going? Before I could respond, my mother reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Darling, please, we can fix this together for the family. The family. I pulled my hand away. Where was this family concern when I worked 2 jobs to pay for Dad's surgery while Sierra posted Instagram photos from Europe? She was finding herself, and now she's lost herself in another country with $50,000 of my money. My father stood up suddenly, his face red. We thought you wouldn't actually enforce the contract. We thought you'd understand that it was okay to take advantage of me. Again, that family protects each other, my mother interjected. I stood up, pushing my untouched plate away. Funny how that protection only goes one way. We'll lose the house, my father said quietly. Then sell the vacation property. But that was supposed to be your inheritance, my mother protested. My inheritance? I pulled up Sierra's latest Instagram post on my phone, her and Eric on the beach of that same vacation property last summer. Like how I was supposed to inherit it last year, before you let them stay there rent-free? My parents exchanged guilty looks. You knew, I said, realization dawning. You knew they were planning to leave the country. My mother's silence was answer enough. You helped them plan it, I continued. You thought I'd just... What? Pay off their debt like I've paid off everything else? You're stronger than Sierra, my father said weakly. You can handle these things. Not anymore. I grabbed my purse. Call the collection agency, set up a payment plan, sell whatever you need to sell. I'm done handling things. Zlata, please, my mother called after me. What will people think? I turned at the door. They'll think you're finally facing consequences. How does it feel? Outside, I sat in my car for a long moment, hands shaking on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Eric using a new phone. Got your little message about the visa issues. Real cute, but you forgot something. I know things about your company, things that could hurt your career. Want to reconsider your position? I forwarded the message to Genesis with 3 words. Time for phase 2? Her response was immediate. Let's bury them. Back at home, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. In a folder labeled Insurance, I had copies of every questionable email Sierra and Eric had sent about their plans to default on the loan. Every conversation about fleeing the country. Every piece of evidence showing my parents' knowledge and compliance. I drafted a new email to the loan agency's fraud department. I have information regarding a premeditated loan default. My phone rang. My mother again. I declined the call and hit send on the email instead. Sometimes, I whispered to my empty apartment, the best family dinner is the last one. The anonymous tip took less than 24 hours to detonate. I was at my desk when Genesis burst into my office, her tablet displaying multiple social media feeds. It's happening, she said, turning the screen toward me. Someone leaked parts of the loan documentation to a financial whistleblower site. The story's going viral. Sierra's Instagram comments had exploded overnight. Her latest beach photo was flooded with responses. Must be nice to live luxury while running from debt. How do you sleep at night knowing your sister's paying for your lifestyle? Financial frauds living their best life. My phone buzzed. Eric again. What did you do? Our sponsors are pulling out. I typed back, I didn't do anything. The truth did. Another notification popped up. An email from my father. Subject line, we need to talk. I opened it. Meeting at the house, 7 p.m., come alone. Genesis read it over my shoulder. Trap? Obviously. I closed my laptop, but I'm going anyway. Want backup? No, it's time to finish this. The house looked smaller than I remembered, its shadows longer in the evening light. My father sat alone on the porch steps, looking older than his 61 years. Your mother's not here, he said as I approached. I asked her to let me handle this. Handle what? He pulled out a stack of papers. We found these in Sierra's old room. She left them behind when they ran. Email printouts, bank statements, text messages, a complete paper trail of their plan to take the money and run. You knew, I said quietly. You knew all along. We thought, he rubbed his face. We thought you wouldn't actually go through with the clause. You never go through with consequences. You always fix things. Not anymore. The collection agency called again. They're talking about fraud charges now. Criminal charges, Zlata. Actions have consequences. He looked up at me, eyes wet. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter. Did that ever matter? Silence stretched between us, heavy with decades of unspoken resentment. We got a call from Sierra an hour ago, he finally said. Their visas are being revoked. Eric's business partners are backing out. They're stranded. Karma's not very subtle, is it? Can't you stop this? I sat beside him on the steps, keeping careful distance. Remember when I was 16 and I wanted to go to that summer programming camp? He stared straight ahead. You said we couldn't afford it, but 2 months later, Sierra needed a new laptop for her photography hobby. Premium model, top of the line. Zlata, I'm not fixing this, I said, standing up. I'm not fixing anything ever again. My phone buzzed. A video call from Sierra. I answered it where my father could see. They're freezing our accounts. Sierra was crying, mascara running. Eric's partners are saying something about fraud investigations. What's happening? The truth is happening, I said calmly. How's that working out for you? We're stuck here. The embassy won't help. Our cards are declined. Sounds like a you problem. Dad, she wailed, seeing him in the frame. Tell her to stop this. He looked between us, lost. I don't know how. That's right, I said. For once, you don't know how to fix things for her. Interesting feeling, isn't it? Sierra's face contorted with rage. You evil, jealous. I ended the call. My father stood slowly, papers clutched in his trembling hands. What do you want from us? I want you to sit in this mess you helped create. I want you to feel what it's like when no one comes to save you. I want you to understand what you did to me all these years. We loved you. No, you used me. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Genesis. The fraud department wants to schedule an interview. Ready for the final nail? I looked at my father, this broken man who had always chosen the path of least resistance, who had let my mother and sister drain me dry year after year. I have to go, I said. I have a meeting about fraud charges. Please, he whispered. We're family. I paused at my car. That stopped meaning anything the day you chose her over me for the last time. As I drove away, I watched him in my rearview mirror, still clutching those damning papers, standing alone in the growing darkness of the house, where I'd learned that blood means nothing when it's always flowing one way. The collection agency moved fast. Within a week, they began garnishing my parents' assets. I watched from my office as their vacation property listing went live, the same property I'd dreamed of inheriting, now priced for a quick sale. My mother showed up unannounced, makeup perfect despite her red-rimmed eyes. They're taking everything. Not everything, I said, not looking up from my computer. Just what you put at risk. Why are you doing this to us? I'm not doing anything. The contract is. She slammed her hand on my desk. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I met her eyes. Like you looked at me when I begged you not to take my college fund? That was different? Yes, you keep saying that, but it wasn't different. It was just another time you chose Sierra over me. My phone buzzed. An email from the fraud investigation team. Interview scheduled with Sierra and Eric via video conference. Your presence is requested. They're investigating Sierra for fraud, my mother whispered, reading over my shoulder. Our baby girl could go to jail. Should have thought about that before helping her plan an international loan default. She sank into the chair across from me. How did you become so cold? I learned from the best. I turned my screen to show her Sierra's latest social media post, a tearful video about being victimized by toxic family. She's scared, my mother said. She's manipulating. Again. But this time, it won't work. My phone rang. Genesis. Turn on the news, she said without greeting. Local business channel. I pulled up the live stream. There was Eric being escorted from a business meeting by security. The headline scrolled, "Local startup founder under investigation for international fraud." My mother covered her mouth. Oh God. Actions, consequences, I said quietly. Funny how that works. They're stranded, she pleaded. Their visas are expired. Their accounts are frozen. Like my accounts were frozen after paying Dad's medical bills? When I had to eat ramen for 6 months while Sierra posted photos from Paris? The office door opened. My father walked in, looking defeated. The vacation house sold, he said. Below asking, but enough to cover part of the debt. Congratulations, I said. You're learning financial responsibility. Only took 61 years. Zlata, my mother tried again. We can still fix this. As a family, we were never a family, I cut in. We were a support system for Sierra. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. This is Eric. Please, we're desperate. The embassy won't help. Sierra's having panic attacks. Name your price. I showed the message to my parents. See? Now he wants to negotiate. Funny how that happens when the money runs out. What are you going to do? My father asked. I typed a response. My price? Everything you took plus interest, calculate it. I'll wait. They don't have that kind of money, my mother protested. Neither did I when you took my college fund. Neither did I when Dad needed surgery. Neither did I when Sierra needed bail money that one time. But somehow, I managed. My computer pinged. An email from the fraud investigators requesting additional documentation. I have a meeting to prepare for, I said, standing. You can see yourselves out. Wait, my father said. The house. They're talking about a lien. Then I guess you better start packing. My mother burst into tears. Real ones this time, not the manipulative sobs I'd grown up with. Why did you do this to us? She cried. I walked to the door and held it open. You did this to yourselves. I just put it in writing. After they left, I sat back down and opened my email. Sierra had sent a long, rambling apology, the kind she always wrote when she needed something. I deleted it without reading. Genesis appeared in my doorway. Ready for the fraud interview tomorrow? Ready to end this? I said. They're your family, she reminded me gently. No, I replied, pulling up the final piece of evidence, photos of my parents helping Sierra pack for her escape, dated 2 days before the wedding. They're just people who share my DNA. Family would never have done this. My phone lit up one last time, a text from Sierra. I'm sorry, I mean it this time. Please help us. I typed back 6 words. Sorry doesn't pay back $50,000. Then I turned off my phone, opened the fraud investigation files, and began preparing my statement. Tomorrow would be the final nail, the one that would seal not just their fate, but the coffin on every family tie that had ever bound me to their manipulation. It was time to end this story, on my terms. The beach was empty except for me and the seagulls. I sat on the sand, reading the final notice from the collection agency. Debt resolved through asset liquidation. Case closed. My phone buzzed, Genesis sending me a news article. Local couple detained at border attempting illegal re-entry. I smiled. Sierra and Eric had tried sneaking back into the country through Mexico. It hadn't gone well. Another buzz. My mother. They're holding them for questioning. Please help. I typed back. New phone? Who's this? The wind picked up, carrying away her next 3 messages before I could read them. I didn't bother retrieving them from the sand. My laptop chimed with an email from the fraud investigators. Thank you for your cooperation. Charges have been filed. Good, I whispered to the waves. A shadow fell across my screen. I looked up to find my father standing there, looking lost in his now too large suit. The house sold, he said, sitting heavily in the sand beside me. We're moving into an apartment next week. Downsizing can be healthy. Your mother, he paused. She's not handling it well. And nothing. He picked up a handful of sand, let it slip through his fingers. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to say you were right. I closed my laptop. About? Everything. We failed you. We let Sierra drain you dry. His voice cracked. We weren't parents to you. We were enablers to her. Took you long enough to notice. I saw the spreadsheet, he continued. The one with all the money you gave us over the years. Did you know the total equals almost exactly what your mother and I lost in assets? Karma's good at math. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This was in Sierra's old room. It's addressed to you, dated the day before the wedding. I opened it. Inside was a note in Sierra's handwriting. Dear Zlata, by the time you read this, we'll be gone. Thanks for being such a reliable ATM all these years. Don't worry, Mom and Dad will guilt you into fixing this too. They always do. Love, Sierra. She never saw you as a sister, my father said quietly. And we never saw you as a daughter. We saw you as a solution. I folded the note carefully. And now we see you as someone we lost through our own actions. He stood up, brushing sand from his pants. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just saying you were right to do what you did. My phone buzzed again. Genesis. Holy shit. Sierra and Eric are facing federal charges. Your parents' statement sealed it. I looked up at my father. You testified against them? We told the truth, he said simply. Finally. He turned to leave, then stopped. That spreadsheet, the total you gave us over the years, would have bought this beach house, I finished, gesturing to the luxury property behind us. The one I just closed on this morning. His eyes widened slightly. You bought the vacation house you had to sell? Yes. At below market value, thanks to the urgent sale requirement. I stood up, brushing sand from my legs. Funny how things come full circle. He nodded once, understanding the finality of it all, and walked away. I watched him disappear down the beach, a smaller man than I'd ever seen him. My phone lit up with a video call, Sierra from a detention center. I answered it. They're charging us with fraud, she sobbed. Mom and Dad testified. How could they? How could you leave me with $50,000 in debt? That's different. We're family. Not anymore. I held up my house keys. Remember this view? The beach house you love so much? It's mine now, legally, permanently, and you're never stepping foot in it. You bitch! I ended the call and blocked the number. Genesis appeared at the top of the beach stairs, carrying 2 champagne glasses. Ready to christen the new house? Almost. I pulled up my banking app and looked at my accounts. All in the black, all in my name only. No co-signers, no family loans, no guilt. To karma, Genesis said, handing me a glass. To contracts, I corrected, but then smiled. And to finally choosing myself. We clinked glasses as the sun set over my new beach house, painting everything in shades of justice. My phone stayed silent. No more family emergencies, no more guilt trips, no more manipulation. Just peace, property in my name, and the sound of waves washing everything clean. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers in legal documents and property deeds. Sometimes it looks like finally closing the door on the people who never saw you as anything but a solution to their problems. And sometimes it feels exactly like freedom.
The day I found out my sister stole my college fund, I was organising my financial aid documents at our kitchen table. My acceptance letter to Stanford lay beside me. My dream school since I was 12. I'd worked my entire life for this moment, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while juggling 3 part-time jobs to supplement the savings account my parents had started for me when I was born. My name is Mary. And that was the day my family showed me exactly who they were. What do you mean the account is empty? I stared at my mother across the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I held the bank statement. There should be over $40,000 in there. Mom stirred her coffee casually, not meeting my eyes. Sydney needed it more than you did, honey. You're smart. You'll figure something out. The room started spinning. Sydney needed my college fund for what exactly? As if summoned, my sister sauntered into the kitchen wearing designer clothes I'd never seen before. A brand new iPhone peeked out of her Gucci purse. Oh my God, is this about the money? Sydney rolled her eyes. You're being so dramatic. I needed to establish myself socially before starting my influencer career. Image is everything these days. You spent my college fund on clothes and accessories. My voice cracked. Mom, Dad, you let her do this. Dad walked in, newspaper tucked under his arm. Princess, your sister has a real shot at making it big on social media. It's an investment in her future. Besides, you can always go to community college. I felt like I'd been slapped. An investment? What about my future? I got into Stanford, Sydney laughed. Actually laughed. Please. Like you could handle Stanford anyway. You should be thanking me for saving you from embarrassing yourself. Mary, Mom sighed. We always knew Sydney had that special something. You're more practical. You'll be fine wherever you go. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. Practical? I worked 3 jobs while maintaining perfect grades. I earned that money. It was meant for my education. Oh, stop being so selfish, Sydney snapped. I already have 10,000 followers. Once I hit it big, I'll pay you back double. When did you take it? I demanded. How long have you all been lying to me? Mum and Dad exchanged glances. We transferred it to Sydney's account about 6 months ago, Dad admitted. She had a solid business plan. 6 months, I interrupted. While I was working overtime at the diner, while I was applying for scholarships. Look what I got with it, Sydney twirled, showing off her outfit. Don't you think I look amazing? This is what success looks like, Mary. Something inside me broke. I walked to my room without another word, pulled out my suitcase and started packing. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. I could hear them talking in the kitchen. She'll get over it, Mum was saying. She always does. Should we check on her? Dad asked. Let her throw her little tantrum, Sydney replied. She's just jealous of my potential. I zipped up my suitcase and walked back to the kitchen. I'm leaving. Don't be ridiculous, Mom scoffed. Where would you go? Anywhere but here. I pulled out my phone and dialed my friend Brady's number. Hey, can I crash at your place for a while? Of course, he answered immediately. Everything okay? I'll explain when I get there. I hung up and faced my family one last time. You know what's funny? I always knew Sydney was your favourite, but I never thought you'd steal from me to prove it. We didn't steal anything, Dad protested. We redistributed family resources. Save it. I headed for the door. I hope those followers are worth it, Sydney, because you just bought them with my trust and respect. Mary, don't be dramatic, Mom started. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being practical, remember? And practically speaking, I no longer have a family. I walked out, wheeling my suitcase behind me. As I reached the sidewalk, I heard Sydney call out, "You'll regret this when I'm famous." I didn't look back. I had exactly $342.87 in my personal account, a part-time job at a diner, and an acceptance letter to a school I could no longer afford. But I also had something else. A burning determination to prove them all wrong. Brady was waiting for me when I arrived at his apartment 20 minutes later. One look at my face and he knew something was seriously wrong. Want to talk about it? He asked, helping me with my suitcase. I took a deep breath. Yeah, but first, I need to figure out how to apply for student loans. I'm going to Stanford with or without their help. Living out of Brady's spare room wasn't exactly the fresh start I'd imagined for myself, but it was better than going back home. The first week was the hardest. I'd wake up confused, reaching for my childhood alarm clock before remembering where I was. You need to eat something, Brady insisted one morning, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across his kitchen counter. You've got that financial aid meeting at Stanford today. I pushed the eggs around with my fork. What's the point? Even with loans and aid, I'm still short by thousands. Then we'll figure something out. Brady sat beside me. But you're not giving up. I didn't watch you work your ass off for 4 years just to let your sister's shopping spree derail your future. The financial aid officer's name was Rachel, and she changed my life that afternoon. Your situation is unusual, she said, reviewing my documents. But not impossible. Tell me, Mary, how badly do you want to attend Stanford? More than anything, I replied without hesitation. I'll work 3 jobs if I have to. Rachel smiled. That won't be necessary. There's a work-study program in my department. It won't cover everything, but combined with loans and a partial scholarship, I think we can make this work. The catch is, you'll need to take a reduced course load. It might take 5 years instead of 4. I'll take it, I said immediately. I don't care if it takes 10 years. That evening, I picked up an extra shift at the diner to celebrate. The irony wasn't lost on me, celebrating the chance to work more by working more. As I refilled coffee cups, my phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. OMG sis, just hit 15K followers. Told you this was a good investment. Miss you. I deleted it without responding. Months passed. I settled into a routine. Classes in the morning, work-study in the afternoon, diner shifts at night. Brady's spare room became my sanctuary, decorated with second-hand furniture I'd picked up from yard sales. You should see their Facebook posts, Brady said one evening as we shared takeout. Sydney's influencer career isn't exactly taking off. Your dad's business isn't doing great either. I don't want to know, I replied, focusing on my noodles. They're not my problem anymore. But late that night, I found myself scrolling through their profiles. Sydney's follower count had plateaued. Her latest posts were mostly ads for sketchy weight loss teas. Mum's usually cheerful updates had taken on a worried tone, with vague references to challenging times and keeping faith. The next morning, Rachel caught me yawning during our work-study shift. Late night? She asked, handing me a stack of files to organise. Just thinking too much. I hesitated. Can I ask you something? How do you know when you've made the right choice? Rachel set down her coffee. Is this about your family? How did you... Mary, you're not the first student I've seen whose family let them down. But you're one of the few who turned that disappointment into determination. She leaned forward. The right choice isn't always the easy one. Sometimes it's the one that hurts, but helps you grow. I just feel... I searched for the words. Lost, sometimes, like I'm floating without an anchor. Then build new anchors, she said simply. Create your own support system. Look around, you've already started. She was right. Between Brady's unwavering support, Rachel's mentorship, and my own stubborn persistence, I was slowly building something new. Something that was entirely mine. That night at the diner, I overheard 2 customers discussing a new tech startup that was revolutionizing financial software. They mentioned they were hiring entry-level programmers. Excuse me, I interrupted, setting down their coffee. I couldn't help overhearing. I'm actually studying computer science at Stanford. 2 weeks later, I quit the diner for an internship that paid twice as much. When I told Brady, he insisted on taking me out to celebrate. To new beginnings, he toasted, raising his glass. And old friends, I added, clinking my glass against his. I wouldn't be here without you, Brady. Please, he scoffed. You did all the hard work. I just provided the couch. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sydney. Mom and Dad are worried about you. At least let them know you're okay. I turned off my phone and focused on Brady. Tell me about your day instead. As we talked and laughed, I realized Rachel was right. I was building new anchors, creating my own definition of family. And for the first time since that day in the kitchen, I felt truly, completely okay. Little did I know that in a few years, those same people who had laughed at my dreams would be the ones desperately seeking my help. But that's another story. One that would prove that karma has perfect timing. 5 years after walking out of my childhood home, I stood on Stanford's graduation stage, my heart pounding as they called my name. The internship had turned into a full-time position, and I'd managed to graduate with honours despite my extended timeline. "Mary!" Brady shouted from the crowd, whistling loudly. Beside him, Rachel beamed, looking every bit as proud as a mother should. Later, at the small celebration dinner Brady organised, Rachel handed me an envelope. "Open it," she urged, practically bouncing in her seat. Inside was a job offer, Director of Student Financial Services at Stanford. "But that's your job," I said, confused. "Was my job," Rachel corrected. "I'm moving to the Dean's office, and I recommended you as my replacement. You've lived it, Mary. You know what these kids are going through. Who better to help them?" I looked at the salary figure and nearly choked on my wine. It was more money than I'd ever imagined making, especially combined with my tech job, which I'd decided to keep part-time. "Speech!" Brady called out, raising his glass. "To the two people who became my real family," I said, my voice thick, "who believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Speaking of family," Brady said carefully, sliding his phone across the table, "you might want to see this." It was a local news article. "McCoy Technologies files for bankruptcy," the headline read. My father's company, once the pride of his life, was failing. The article mentioned mounting debts and mismanagement. "There's more," Brady added. "Sydney's influencer career." Well, I pulled up her Instagram. Her follower count had dropped dramatically, and her last post was a tearful video about being scammed by a fake modelling agency. She'd lost thousands of dollars, probably what remained of my college fund. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked softly. "Honestly, I feel nothing." I handed the phone back to Brady. They made their choice 5 years ago. The next morning, I walked into my new office at Stanford, ready to start my first day. By lunch, I'd already helped 2 students figure out their financial aid options. As I was reviewing a third case, my office phone rang. "Mary?" "It's Mom." My hand froze over the paperwork. "How did you get this number?" "Your old friend Jessica works in administration. Please don't hang up." Her voice cracked. "We need to talk." "We needed to talk 5 years ago," I replied coldly, "before you let Sydney steal my future." "She didn't steal—" Mom caught herself. "Look, things are difficult right now. Your father's business, Sydney's investments. We're losing the house, Mary." "That sounds like a personal problem." "We're family," she pleaded. "Family?" I laughed. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't dismiss dreams as impractical. Family doesn't—" "We made a mistake," she interrupted. "We know that now. Please, can we just meet? Have dinner? Your father and Sydney will be there. We need to make things right." I was about to refuse when Rachel's words from years ago echoed in my mind. Sometimes the right choice is the one that hurts but helps you grow. "Fine," I said finally. "Thursday night. Send me the details." After hanging up, I called Brady. "They want to meet," I told him. "Are you going?" "Yes." I took a deep breath. But not for them. For me. I want them to see exactly what they threw away. That evening, I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting my blazer. My reflection showed someone different from the broken girl who'd fled with a single suitcase. This woman was successful, confident, and, most importantly, whole. My phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "Can't wait to see you, sis. We have so much catching up to do." I thought about all the times I'd dreamed of this moment, of showing them how wrong they were about me. But now that it was here, I realized something important. I didn't need their validation anymore. "You don't have to do this," Brady said when I called him again. "I know." I grabbed my car keys. "But I want to. Besides, I'm curious to see what they think constitutes making things right." "Want me to come with?" "No," I replied, thinking of the folder I'd prepared with bank statements, achievement certificates, and my new business cards. "I can handle this." As I drove to the restaurant, I thought about how life has a way of coming full circle. 5 years ago, they'd laughed at my dreams. Now they needed my help. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I wasn't the same person they'd betrayed. I was stronger now, wiser, and I had a feeling this dinner was going to be very interesting indeed. The restaurant they chose was significantly less upscale than the ones they used to frequent. I spotted them immediately. Mom nervously adjusting her knockoff handbag, Dad's shoulders slumped in his worn suit, and Sydney picking at her chipped nail polish. "Mary!" Sydney jumped up, arms outstretched for a hug I didn't return. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by fast fashion basics. "Let's skip the pretense," I said, taking my seat. "You didn't invite me here for a family reunion." Mom's face fell. "Can't we at least catch up first? You look different." Success does that to a person. I placed my folder on the table. "So, who wants to start?" "Dad, how's the business?" He flinched. We've hit a rough patch." "The market?" "Filed for bankruptcy," I corrected. "Sydney, how's the influencer career?" She stared at her water glass. "That's not fair." "Neither was stealing my college fund, but here we are." "Mary," Mom interrupted. "We know we made mistakes, but we're still family." "Family?" I opened my folder and pulled out my bank statement from 5 years ago. "Let's talk about family. Here's the account you emptied. $43,000 to be exact, my entire future." "We can explain," Dad started. "I'm not finished." I pulled out my Stanford acceptance letter. "Remember this? The one you said I couldn't handle?" "Well, guess what?" I slid my diploma across the table. "Graduated with honors, while working 2 jobs." Sydney's eyes widened at my business cards. "Director of Student Financial Services, and you work in tech too?" "Turns out I'm not just practical, I'm actually pretty damn successful." I leaned back. "Now, why don't you tell me why we're really here?" Mom burst into tears. "We're losing everything, Mary. The house, the cars, your father's business debts." "The modelling agency scammed me," Sydney added quietly. "All my followers left when I couldn't maintain my lifestyle." "We need..." Dad cleared his throat. "We need help. A loan. Just until we get back on our feet." I let the silence stretch. A waiter approached, but I waved him away. "How much?" $75,000, Dad mumbled, "to keep the house and settle the urgent debts." I pulled out my phone, pulled up my banking app. "I could transfer it right now, I have the money." Their faces lit up with hope. "But before I do," I continued, "I want you to explain something to me. That day in the kitchen, when you told me I wasn't special enough for Stanford, did you believe that?" "We were wrong," Mom whispered. "We were so wrong. That's not what I asked." I put my phone away. "Did you believe it?" Sydney spoke up, her voice small. "I did. I thought I was better than you, that I deserved it more. And now I know I was just entitled and stupid." She wiped her eyes. "I ruined your dreams for Instagram likes." Dad reached across the table. "Princess, please, we can't lose the house. Your mother and sister will have nowhere to go." I stood up, gathering my folder. "I'll think about it." "That's it?" Sydney's voice cracked. "You're just leaving?" "Unlike some people, I don't make major financial decisions on impulse." I pulled on my coat. "I'll contact you with my decision in 3 days." "Mary, wait," Mom called as I turned to leave. "What happened to you? You used to be so sweet." I paused, looking back at their desperate faces. "I grew up. I learned that sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. And I learned that I'm worth more than you ever thought I was." "We know that now," Sydney whispered. "No," I corrected her. "You know you need me now. There's a difference." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Brady. "How'd it go?" I typed back, "They need $75K. They're desperate." His response was immediate. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, thinking of the document I'd asked my lawyer to draw up yesterday just in case. Something they'll never expect. Because while they thought they were asking for a loan, I had a different proposition in mind. One that would make them face exactly what they'd done to me, dollar by dollar, day by day. They wanted my help? Fine. But this time, we'd do it my way. And my way involved a contract that would make them understand the true cost of betrayal. I started my car, already drafting the terms in my head. 3 days. In 3 days, they'd learn exactly what kind of woman their practical daughter had become. 3 days later, I walked into my lawyer's office where my family was already waiting. Their faces lit up with hope when they saw me. Hope that quickly faded when they noticed the thick contract I was carrying. "What's this?" Dad asked, eyeing the document. "My terms." I sat down, sliding a copy to each of them. "You want $75,000? Here's how you'll get it." Mom flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. "A contract, but we're family." "Family didn't stop you from stealing from me." I nodded to my lawyer. "Please explain the terms." He cleared his throat. "The $75,000 will be disbursed in monthly installments of $5,000, provided all conditions are met." "Conditions?" Sydney interrupted. "What conditions?" "First," I said, "Sydney needs to get a real job. Not influencing, not modelling. An actual 9-to-5 position. Each month she'll put half her salary into a scholarship fund I'm establishing for students whose families have abandoned them financially." Sydney's face reddened. "That's not—" "Second," I continued, "Dad needs to take a financial management course and work with a court-appointed bankruptcy advisor. No more risky business ventures." Dad started to protest, but I held up my hand. "Third, Mum will volunteer 10 hours per week at the University Financial Aid Office, helping students figure out how to pay for college when their families let them down." "This is ridiculous," Mum sputtered. "We're asking for help, not punishment." "No," I corrected her. "You're asking for money. I'm offering a chance at redemption. There's more." My lawyer turned to the next page. "The house will be sold. A smaller, more affordable property will be purchased with part of the funds. The remaining money will go toward debt settlement." "Sell the house?" Dad exploded. "That's our home." "No, it's a symbol of your pride that you can no longer afford." I leaned forward. Just like my college fund was supposed to be untouchable. But here we are. Sydney was reading through the contract, her face pale. "It says here we have to attend family therapy?" "Monthly sessions, all of us." I met their shocked stares. "You want to talk about family? Let's talk about it with a professional who can help us unpack exactly what happened 5 years ago. And if we refuse?" Mum's voice was barely a whisper. "Then you get nothing." I stood up. "You have 1 hour to decide. I'll be in the coffee shop downstairs." Brady was waiting for me there. "How'd they take it?" "About as well as expected." I stirred my coffee. "They thought I'd just write a check and forget everything that happened." "Will they sign?" "They don't have a choice. The bank's foreclosing next month and Sydney's credit is destroyed from her failed influencer ventures." 45 minutes later, my lawyer called. They were ready to talk. I returned to find them huddled together, looking defeated. "Before you sign," I said, "I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability." "It feels like punishment," Sydney muttered. "Really? Because to me it feels like an opportunity, the kind you didn't give me." I pulled out my own pen. "I'll sign first, to show you I'm committed to this. All of it, including the therapy." Dad picked up his pen next. "We really don't have a choice, do we?" "You always have a choice, just like you had a choice 5 years ago." I watched as he signed. "The difference is this time I'm giving you a chance to make the right one." Mom signed next, tears falling onto the paper. Sydney was last, her signature shaky but determined. "What now?" she asked. "Now," I said, gathering the contracts. "You start over. Just like I had to. The first installment will be transferred tomorrow. Sydney, I have 3 job interviews lined up for you next week. Dad, your first financial management class starts Monday. And the therapy?" Mom asked. "First session is Thursday at 6 p.m. Don't be late." I handed them each a copy of the signed contract. "Welcome to your fresh start. Try not to waste it this time." As they filed out, Sydney lingered behind. "Why are you really doing this? You could have just said no." I thought about the scared girl I'd been, packing her bags with shaking hands. About Brady's spare room and Rachel's kindness. About late nights studying and early mornings working. Because someone once told me that the right choice isn't always the easy one. I met her eyes. Sometimes it's the one that hurts but helps you grow. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. As she left, I pulled out my phone to text Brady. They signed. All of them. His response came quickly. "You're either the most forgiving person I know or the most brilliant." I smiled, thinking of the journey ahead. Maybe I'm both. The first therapy session was as uncomfortable as I'd expected. We sat in a semicircle, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, while Dr. Roberts observed us with practiced patience. "Let's start with that day," she said. "The day Mary discovered her college fund was gone." "Do we have to?" Sydney squirmed in her seat. "Yes," I said firmly. "We do." "I remember feeling justified," Sydney admitted after a long pause, "like I deserved it more because I had this grand plan to be famous. And now?" Dr. Roberts prompted. "Now I'm working as a junior administrative assistant, making coffee for people Mary's age who are already executives." Sydney's voice cracked. "I wasted everything. Her money, my time, my reputation." Mom reached for her tissue box. "We enabled her. We really thought, that I wasn't worth investing in," I finished. "That I was just the practical one, the backup plan." "No," Dad protested. "We never thought." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, played the video I'd recorded that day. Their own voices filled the room. "Sydney has that special something. You're more practical. Like you could handle Stanford anyway." Dr. Roberts watched their faces as they heard themselves. "That must have been painful to record." "I listen to it sometimes," I admitted, "when I'm doubting myself. It reminds me how far I've come." Sydney burst into tears. "I was horrible. I can't believe I laughed at your dreams." "Sydney," Dr. Roberts said gently, "why do you think you did that?" "Because I was terrified of failing." The words exploded out of her. "Mary always knew what she wanted. She worked hard, had real goals. I thought if I could be famous fast, I could prove I was special too." The session continued, peeling back layers of resentment, jealousy, and misplaced priorities. By the end, we were all emotionally exhausted. In the parking lot, Sydney caught up with me. "I got my first paycheck yesterday." "I know. The scholarship fund received your deposit." "It felt good, actually. Earning something real." She hesitated. "My co-worker mentioned they're looking for someone in the IT department. I thought, maybe I could take some coding classes." I studied her face, searching for any trace of the entitled girl who'd laughed at my ambitions. Instead, I saw something new: humility, maybe even determination. "The community college has excellent night classes," I said finally. "I could help you with the application." The next week, Dad called me to his financial management class. Would you mind sitting in? There's something I need to say." I found him standing at the front of the class, hands shaking slightly. "This is my daughter Mary," he told the room full of other struggling business owners. 5 years ago, I stole her college fund to finance my other daughter's social media career. I lost everything: my business, my home, and most importantly, my daughter's trust. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let pride blind you to what really matters." Later, over coffee, he showed me his new budget plan. "The bankruptcy advisor says if we stick to this, we could be debt-free in 3 years." "That's good, Dad." "Mary," his voice was small, "I'm sorry, not just for the money, for not believing in you." Mom's transformation was slower, more resistant, but after a month of working in the financial aid office, something changed. "I met a girl today," she told me during our next therapy session. "She reminded me of you. Brilliant, hardworking, but her parents, they didn't think college was necessary for a girl." She wiped her eyes. "I helped her find scholarships, loans, work-study opportunities. I kept thinking about how no one did that for you, how we did the opposite." "Did she get the funding she needed?" I asked. Mom smiled through her tears. "Yes. She starts next semester." Dr. Roberts leaned forward. "How did that make you feel, helping her?" "Like I was finally doing what a mother should do, supporting someone's dreams instead of crushing them." As I drove home that evening, Brady called to check in. "How was therapy?" "Surprising," I answered. Trying. Really trying. And how do you feel about that? I thought about Sydney's coding classes, Dad's humility, Mom's gradual understanding. Cautiously optimistic. But also what? Proud of myself. Not for succeeding despite them, but for giving them a chance to become better people. I pulled into my driveway. Even if it took a legally binding contract to make it happen. That's because you're not just the practical one anymore, Brady said. You're the strong one, the wise one. He was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving, and somehow impossibly helping my family learn to thrive too. On my terms this time. 6 months into our contract, I sat in the audience at Sydney's community college, watching her give a presentation for her introductory programming class. Her hands shook slightly as she demonstrated the simple app she'd built, but her voice was steady. And that's how I created my first budgeting application, she concluded, inspired by my own experience with financial mismanagement. During the Q&A, someone asked about her previous career as an influencer. Actually, Sydney replied, meeting my eyes in the audience, that wasn't a career. That was me stealing my sister's future because I was too afraid to build my own. This, learning to code, working a real job, building something useful, this is my career. After the presentation, I found her in the hallway. So, she asked nervously, what did you think? The code needs work, I said honestly, but the concept is solid. A budgeting app for college students. I thought maybe it could help prevent others from making my mistakes. She clutched her laptop. Would you maybe help me develop it further? Before I could answer, Mum and Dad arrived, having slipped in late. Sorry we missed the presentation, Dad said. The financial management class ran long, but look, he pulled out a certificate. Finally completed the course. And I helped 3 students secure full rides today, Mom added. One of them cried. I used to think those tears were dramatic, but now... She trailed off, remembering. How about we discuss Sydney's app over dinner? I suggested. I know a great Thai place nearby. At the restaurant, Sydney spread out her design notes, while Dad reviewed her projected development costs. This could actually work, he said, running the numbers. Small scale at first, but with the right marketing strategy. No, Sydney interrupted. No more get-rich-quick schemes. I want to do this right, build it properly, test it thoroughly. Mary, that's why I want your help. Not for shortcuts, but for guidance. I felt something shift in my chest. Okay, I said, but we do this my way. Proper development cycles, user testing, gradual rollout. Deal, she beamed. Thank you, sis. Later that week, during our therapy session, Dr. Roberts noted the change in our dynamic. Sydney's asking for help instead of taking, she observed. Mary's offering guidance instead of judgment. This is significant progress. I've been thinking, Mum said suddenly, about the scholarship fund. What if we contributed more? Not just Sydney's portion of her salary, but something from all of us? We could call it the Second Chance Fund, Dad suggested, for students who need help starting over. I felt tears prick my eyes. You'd do that. We owe you so much more than money, Sydney said softly. We owe you an entire future that we tried to steal. Maybe this way, we can help give other students the chance we almost took from you. Dr. Roberts smiled. Mary, how does that make you feel? Validated, I admitted. Like you finally understand what education means, what dreams mean. After the session, Dad pulled me aside. The house goes on the market next week. Are you okay with that? No, he said honestly. But I'm learning that being okay with something isn't as important as doing what's right. We found a smaller place, closer to Sydney's school, and your mum's volunteer work. And your new job? He smiled wryly. Being a junior accountant at 60 isn't exactly what I planned, but it's honest work. That means something now. That night, I met Brady for our weekly dinner. You're looking thoughtful, he noted. Sydney asked for my help with her app today. Actually asked instead of assuming or demanding. And I wanted to help her. Genuinely wanted to. I pushed my food around. Is that weird? After everything? No, Brady said. It's growth. On both sides. My phone buzzed. A text from Sydney. Reviewed your coding suggestions. Makes so much sense now. Thank you for being patient with me. Coffee tomorrow to discuss the next module? As I typed back yes, I realized something profound. The contract I'd drafted 6 months ago wasn't just changing them. It was changing me too. The walls I'd built for protection were slowly transforming into bridges. You know what's funny? I told Brady. I created that contract to make them understand what they'd done to me, but watching them actually do the work, make real changes, it's healing something in me too. That's because you're giving them what they didn't give you, he replied. A chance to prove they can be better. I thought about Sydney's app, Dad's humble new job, Mum's dedication to helping students. Small steps, but real ones. Genuine changes, not just performances for my benefit. Maybe, I said, that's what real family does. Not just love each other, but help each other grow. The final payment hit my account on a Tuesday morning. I stared at the notification, remembering the scared girl who'd fled with nothing but a suitcase and determination. Now, sitting in my office at Stanford, I pulled out the contract that had changed everything. My phone buzzed, a message from Sydney. Check the App Store. We're live. I opened the store and found it immediately. Fresh Start Finance, building better financial futures. Below the description was my sister's name as lead developer and mine as project advisor. 300 downloads already, Brady said, poking his head into my office. Not bad for day one. Did you see the dedication page? He leaned over my shoulder as I tapped through the app. There it was, in simple text. To my sister Mary, who taught me that real success comes from hard work, not shortcuts. Thank you for my second chance. The door opened again. Mum, carrying her volunteer coordinator badge and a stack of files. 2 more full scholarships approved, she announced. The Second Chance Fund is making a real difference. You should see these students' faces when they realize they can actually afford college. Speaking of the fund, Dad entered behind her, straightening his accountant's tie. The quarterly reports are ready. We've helped 28 students so far. I looked at them, really looked at them. Mum's pride wasn't about appearances anymore, but about impact. Dad's confidence came from honest work, not risky schemes. And Sydney, she'd traded Instagram filters for computer filters, building something real. Family therapy in 20 minutes, Sydney reminded everyone joining us. Dr. Roberts said it's time to discuss ending the formal sessions. Are we ready for that? Mum asked. I think we are, I said, surprising myself. Look at us. Actually talking. Actually listening. Remember our first session? Sydney laughed. We could barely look at each other. Because we were all carrying shame, Dad admitted. Me for failing as a father, Sydney for what she'd done, your mother for enabling it. And me for being angry, I added, for needing that contract to force you to change. That contract saved us, Mum said quietly. Not just financially. It made us face ourselves. Brady cleared his throat. Speaking of facing things, Mary, should we tell them? I nodded, standing up. We're getting married. Small ceremony next month. Oh, honey. Mom stepped forward, then hesitated. Would it be okay if I helped plan it? The old fear flickered. Would she try to take over, make it about appearances? But I saw only genuine hope in her eyes. Actually, I said, I'd really like that. Sydney wiped her eyes. Does this mean, are we really family again? We're something better, I replied. We're a family that learned from our mistakes. That grew stronger from our breaks. Dr. Roberts welcomed us warmly when we arrived at her office. I understand you want to discuss concluding our sessions. The contract is fulfilled, I explained. All the terms met, all the payments made. And how do you feel about that? I looked at my family, my real family, rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. I feel like we don't need a contract anymore. They've proven who they are now. By keeping our promises, Dad said. By earning trust back, Mom added. By becoming people worthy of being called family, Sydney finished. Dr. Roberts smiled. Then I have one last assignment. Mary, what would you do if they needed help again? I'd give it, I said without hesitation. Not because of obligation, but because I trust who they've become. And we'd accept it with gratitude, Sydney said, but only after trying to solve things ourselves first. That, Dr. Roberts said, is how I know you're ready. Later at dinner, Brady raised his glass. To the strongest family I know. To second chances, Dad added. To doing the work, Mom said. To building something real, Sydney smiled. I looked at them, my once broken, now healing family, and raised my own glass. To growing together. As we ate, talked and laughed, I thought about that contract, safely filed away in my office. We'd needed it then, needed its structure and consequences to force us to face our truths. But we didn't need it anymore. What we had now was stronger than any legal document. It was trust, rebuilt from scratch. Understanding, earned through effort. Love, stronger for having been tested and proven. We had become the family we should have been all along, and that was worth more than any college fund. Ready to go home? Brady asked as we finished dinner. I looked at my family, really my family now, and smiled. I am home.